Yeah, yeah, yeah. So many lies that you hear from the net, they don't get her respect. She reporting the truth, not a check. You want an unbiased opinion straight from the chest, not a bit accomplice or someone here for a check. Tune in, these are thoughts from a lawyer on a mission who goes so hard it's like she works on commission. Trolls in the comments might say she tripping cause they lack the knowledge. They don't know they missing. Got a couple current events that you like. Wanna know about law from the eyes. Tired of all these blogs running lies because their agendas are disguised. Tune in to the intellect, cause I'm sure y'all missing all the facts of the case that she steady is gifting. Someone here for the people, man, it's so uplifting. If you ain't subscribed yet, then you just omitting facts.
Hello, everyone. It is Pam Esquire, also known as Your Law Intellect. And today I said I wasn't going to go live. I said that today I'm going to get a little bit of rest because I've been doing too much. And I have a lot of other work this week, on my real job. You know what I'm saying? Not to say this ain't real, but y'all know what I'm saying, where I'm actually, people's lives rely on me and my expertise. We just give our little input. We're the social media jurors on here. But nonetheless, so my phone started blowing up earlier today. Was it today or yesterday? Anyways, it was girl Tyler Perry then got sued. I said, wait, huh? Wasn't Tyler Perry just there bragging about his million? He's made more black people millionaires, and he had the movie Straw that just came out and all of that. And then I just started talking to myself like, Self said, huh? I said, well, why would this even happen when Christian Keys, I don't know if you guys remember, there was speculations when he came out and was making allegations about someone and people thought it was Tyler, never confirmed, but there was a loud rumble over the internet that it probably was him. I'm like, well, that was your cue. That was your cue, buddy. That was your cue that you might want to relax, if it is true or if it's not true, whatever, you might want to relax. Well, a few days ago, one of the actors that was on Ruthless, and I think it was another one that he was on for Tyler Perry, Derek Dixon, has filed a lawsuit over there in LA. And he has a lot of allegations, but part of those allegations, and again, these are just allegations, they have to be proven. But I guess so that we, the public, know in his mind that we would not, think this was just some frivolous type of information. He put receipts in there. Okay. He has text messages, which of course it would have to be authenticated as to what device it came from, because people do like make up text messages. We're not going to say that they don't. So from the court of law perspective, they would be authenticated, a foundation and all of that. Tyler, I don't want to believe, and I was talking to someone earlier and I was like, I just don't want to believe that he would be sloppy like this, like to put things in writing and flirt with them on with all of this stuff that is going on. And again, this is all alleged, Tyler. We're not saying that you did this, but what I am saying is this man did add some receipts. And yeah, we're about to go over it. It is a lot of pages, but some of it is being, I think it's 40 something pages, but part of those pages are being taken up by text messages. So again, it's all over the internet by now. I was going to rest and I wasn't going to talk about it. Okay. I was like, I'm going to finish resting. And then I said, well, I think I have to talk about it. So here we are. Make sure you hit the like button so everybody knows that we are on. Please subscribe to the channel. And yeah, all of that good stuff, because we're going to be here for a couple of minutes. So I hope you guys, name change 412 said, oh my goodness, I'll wait for the evidence before making judgment. Yeah. So again, this is a civil lawsuit. So the consequence is liability. If he is found liable, this is not a guilt or not guilty as in the criminal court of law. I'm sure that that will be thrown around a bit. This is not criminal. This is a civil lawsuit. For it to be criminal, it has to be brought by the DA or prosecution within that state or county. But this is a civil lawsuit of which there are some allegations, along with some text messages, of some inappropriate behavior by Tyler Perry. This is what the allegations are. And yes, I'm sure he will respond. I predict he will probably attempt to respond, perhaps with maybe trying to dismiss it, because LA, they do have different ways to try to dismiss it on the pleading. Will it? Sounds like a question of fact for me, but a little bit I read. I haven't read all of it. So if you get my reactions, there'll be genuine reactions because I have not really read it. Read a few articles, and I think I seen the text messages when I was scrolling through. So I did look at a couple of text messages, but that is correct. We are looking for harm, damages. They'll probably ask for punitive damages, which is that he will be punished at the end, but you'll see that in the prayer for relief after each count. Now, the first probably 30 pages or so will probably be the factual allegations, which is giving what he is alleging happened, to get to what the facts are that apply to each count that he is saying that that Dixon is saying that Tyler Perry is liable for, and what he has done. So let's pull it up again. Make sure y'all hit the like button so everybody know that we're on. Thank you all so much for the support. And again, so this is Derek Dixon against Tyler Perry, TPS Production Services LLC, and other limited liability companies, those 1 through 50. So we know that means that he may have, thank you, Demetria, for the Cash App. I appreciate it. So we know that he may have other companies that they can find that's liable. So it makes more pots of money to go in. Tyler Perry got money within himself, but of course his companies, they got probably way more money. That's where the money resides. So you try to get as many pots in as you can. You put the does, because you don't really know the names of the companies. And so what'll happen is, if you go through discovery, or if even before discovery at some point, but typically it happens during discovery, you'll replace that with whatever names you find. So maybe he got TP Enterprises, or something like that. And you would add that in if you can somehow connect it to what you are alleging he's done. So the first allegation is quid pro. He got a lot on here. He has 10. Quid pro quo actual harassment under Government Code 12940J. The second allegation is work environment harassment under the same code. Then he has actual harassment under the Ralph Act, Section 51.9, workplace gender violence under CC, Section 52.4, violations of the Bain Act, CC, Section 52.1, actual battery, CC 1708.5. So these are where you can find them in the statutes. Actual assault, CC 340.16, negligent retention and intentional infliction of emotional stress. That's the cherry on top a lot of people throw in there. Difficult to prove, but there's something that a lot of people put in there, as you guys have probably seen if you've been on my channel for a while. And retaliation under FEHA. So he said, I'm throwing everything against the wall and see what sticks. Everything. So plaintiff, this is the summary of the action. Plaintiff Derek Dixon files his complaint against defendant Tyler Perry, aka Emmett Perry Jr., TPS Production Services LLC, and Action LLC, together defendants alleging as follows. Okay. The following complaint is pled on information and belief. So this is an allegation. Thank you, April, for the Cash App. This is an allegation, and they're saying upon information and belief. So they may amend it when they get more information, but they're letting everyone know that everything may not be 100% accurate, but this is based on the information that they believe. So information and belief, and just based on probably what Derek has said it was. Let me look and see if he signed it. If they had him sign these allegations up in here. Because a lot of times they don't make you sign the complaints. Nope, he didn't sign it. So that's probably why at the beginning they put information and belief. Because usually you just put information and belief in the paragraphs that you don't really have the necessary evidence to prove it, but maybe you heard it. But because the attorney is doing it on his own volition without the client actually signing it, he just put that in the beginning. Like all of this is upon information and belief. Okay. All right. Because we got situations now where folks are suing attorneys for these lawsuits. This case arises from a sustained pattern of workplace sexual harassment, assault, and retaliation perpetrated by Tyler Perry, a powerful media mogul, against plaintiff Derek Dixon, a professional actor and screenwriter. Mr. Perry is an American actor, filmmaker, and playwright who has built one of the most successful careers in the film and television industry. Mr. Perry took his success and power and used his considerable influence in the entertainment industry to create a coercive, actually exploitative dynamic with Mr. Dixon, initially promising him career advancement and creative opportunities, such as producing his pilot and casting him in his show, only to subject him to escalating sexual harassment, assault, and battery, and professional retaliation when Mr. Dixon did not reciprocate. Mr. Perry's unwanted advances. These events occurred while Mr. Dixon was employed as a series regular on the Tyler Perry show, The Oval. I could not get with that show. I don't know what it was about The Oval. It was like one of those shows where if you took 2 minutes to go to the bathroom, you missed the entire premise of the whole series. I got it. It was the president and the wife, and they ain't really like each other, and they just were faking it for the cameras. And then he had him a woman that was coming in sneaking, and she had a man. Then the kids was bad as hell. I get that, like that portion of it, but like after a while, I just was lost. I was like, okay, Tyler. Anyway, and while Mr. Perry held direct control over his employment, compensation, and creative opportunities, Tyler Perry rose against all odds to become one of the powerful figures in the entertainment industry. His success story, once a symbol of perseverance and self-made achievement, has now become a cautionary tale of how unchecked power, wealth, and influence can corrupt those who attain it. Among other contracts, Perry received a lucrative multi-deal partnership with Oprah Winfrey Network, and his net worth tops $1.36 billion. Yeah, they done threw Oprah in there. They want people to know this is Oprah's boy. Let's go on. Tyler Perry's rise to fame and fortune elevated him from a powerless victim to a figure of tremendous wealth, influence, and power, culminating in the ownership of his own film studios. Rather than using his influence responsibly, Tyler Perry has engaged in a pattern of misconduct where he exploited his position of power. I did a whole spiel when we were talking about Diddy about this. I said that has been the issue. And Tyler, I'm not saying this is you. I'm just saying, because I don't know you. I don't know you at all. But I do know a couple people that was on some of your shows, though. But that's another, conversation for another day. But what I will say is that Black people will get in these positions, and it's almost like they forget how they were treated and what they had to do, and they feel like they did so much, and they want you to work even harder, and it's at a degrading level of what they want you to do, like similar to slavery. Like you took on the power of the slave master, and you do that for Black people. But then you have the Black women who are coming out here and saying, I've never made this much money. He's also been noted that he's paid people their worth. You had Taraji who said that. You had Cicely Tyson before she passed. He threw her in movies. She was on about 100 years old, threw her in movies and said gave her $1 million for that little scene she did on, I think it was Medea's family reunion, where she was telling the story over there, rocking in the chair. This is about family. If you don't have family, you have nothing else. Now I don't even remember what she said, but it was about family. It was like family reunion or something. They was all in at Big Mama's house in the big yard and all of that. So yeah, so I talked about that with the Diddy situation, how that happens so often that, and I don't even know if it's intentionally or if it's consciously that that happens. It's like you feel like you had to go through all these hoops, loops, and hurdles. And he said he came from living in his car and all of that. And now you get these people, and it's almost like you got to go through some things too. But again, this is all alleged. Tyler Perry has been using his power and influence to molest, abuse, and sexually assault impressionable and vulnerable employees and actors who look to him for guidance and mentorship while pursuing their dreams. Oh Lord, they done put the names in here. All right. All right, y'all hit the like button. People piling on in here now. Come on. Just like Harvey Weinstein, comma, Bill Cosby, comma, R. Kelly, comma, Sean P. Diddy Combs, comma, and Kevin Spacey, comma, Roger Ailes, comma, and many others in the industry, Mr. Perry's success has led him to believe that money and influence can get him whatever he wants. That belief slowly transformed into the false idea that Mr. Perry can get whomever he wants. There are things in life that money cannot buy. Mr. Perry sought the one thing his wealth and influence could not purchase, an actual relationship with a man who will remain silent. Perry told Mr. Dixon that his ideal relationship would involve a male and actual partner who he could provide for and who would be loyal but emotionally detached. I don't really want you to love me like that or nothing, but I do want to get it in every now and then, and I'll throw you some money. That's what that sounds like to me. And it does sound like Diddy saying, yeah, I want to get with you with Jane, with the Jane Doe, and saying, I want to get with you, but I'm seeing her and her too. What you think about that? I'm polyamorous. Girl, why you got feelings for me when you see me online with other girls? I told you this was an open relationship. I'm just saying it's kind of sounding similar. Perry told Dixon, quote, whoever ends up with me is going to be a happy mother effer, end quote. In essence, Mr. Perry desired a one-sided coercive dynamic. See that coercive? This Diddy's doing with all of this trial. All we hear about is coercion for the last 5 weeks. Mr. Perry desired a one-sided coercive dynamic with a subordinate and arrangement devoid of mutual consent or emotional reciprocity. Thus began Perry's calculated pursuit of Mr. Dixon. This was not Mr. Perry's first instance of actual exploitation. He has demonstrated a troubling pattern of exploiting vulnerable male actors and employees, leveraging his industry power to create a cycle of hope and dependency. First, he offers aspiring actors the prospect of career-defining opportunity roles that promise visibility and advancement. Then, once they are in his professional orbit, he uses the weight of the influence to ensnare them, positioning their success as contingent on meeting his demands in a quid pro quo actual compromise. This pattern of behavior reveals a calculated use of professional power for actual leverage. Using his influence, Mr. Perry provided vulnerable men with acting positions, roles, shows, contracts, cars, and money. Once the object of his desire was hooked, Tyler Perry would then put them in fear of losing it all unless they engaged in Mr. Perry's perverted desire for actual gratification. Mr. Perry would easily kill off a character in a show of an actor who failed to indulge in Perry's actual fantasies. Some of y'all was wondering where your favorite actors went, and according to them, Some of them was gone because they got killed off for nefarious reasons, according to this guy. Okay. So let's go on. In one such exchange, Perry stated that he could, quote, fix things because the actors of a show he was filming should all be scared because they were all shot at, and, quote, we don't know who lives, end quote, meaning that Tyler Perry was going to use this as a tool to gain compliance with his desires. So here's the text. It says, but I swear to you, I know how to fix this ish. I love killing a mother effer in a show that no one expects. This don't sound like the Tyler that was praying over at the Potter's house saying, I know the plans that God has for you. God is going to take you to heights. And TD Jakes was holding on to his life, like trying not to fall back. God is going to take you loose here. God has told me to donate $1 million. He cussing a lot in this. This you, Tyler, cussing like this, allegedly? You could be sipping Mai Tais, counting coconuts right now. And then the next one has, think about the last episode. They are all shot at. We don't know who lives. And then the response, I guess, from Derek is, exactly. I'm scared. They should be too. And then he said, nope, they're not. And then Derek responds, last I checked, we all got the same bullets in us. I just can't believe he would put stuff like this in writing. What are we doing, Tyler? Allegedly, this is what they saying, Tyler. I know you're going to get your own forensic experts and stuff because you got money. You got money to fight this. Derek Dixon was Mr. Perry's actual desire ever since they became acquainted. Dixon was working as part of the event staff for a party hosted by Mr. Perry when Perry noticed him. Perry immediately offered Dixon a chance to audition for a part in one of the TV productions. So Tyler Perry was standing there with his glass across the room. And he was like, he locked eyes, said, that's going to be my next actor on the next show that I have. Because, it just seemed like he come up with these shows in a week. I'm just saying. I mean, it's just like Tyler Perry has another show and you like, shit, you watch it first and then you tell me how it is. Then I'll tell you if I want to watch it or not. That's kind of where we are with a lot of Tyler Perry stuff. Derek Dixon was Mr. Perry's actual. I already said that. Okay. Dixon agreed and was on set with Perry behind the camera for weeks in close quarters. During the time they were filming, Perry would send flirtatious text messages to Dixon. For example, in one message, Perry stated that he was jealous when he saw Dixon going on walks with another man named Brad. So then he said, why did that photo make me jealous? You two together. And then Dixon said, ha, ha, ha. I don't know. It's just Brad. LOL. Tyler says, LOL. Then Dixon says, he just wanted to go for a quick walk to get his steps in. And now I'm walking to Chipotle by myself. LOL. Tyler said, thick Derek, get that Chipotle. Tyler. In another message, Perry stated to Dixon, what is going to take for you to have guiltless ex? Have y'all found that yet in therapy? You can have freedom from religious guilt and still believe in Christ. Ooh, and this is the new thing. Now, I'm not going to get into that. I'm going to talk about that on my dad's page. Because he got the church page. This is the new thing. Like, it really is where everybody is saying almost like you can do what you want to do. In a nutshell, you do what you want to do. It don't really mean nothing. And yeah. So apparently that's his belief system. What's it going to take for you to have guilt? So I'm reading the text now. What's it going to take for you to have guiltless ex? Have y'all found that yet in therapy? Yes, it's the exact same kind of car, Geo Metro. So Derek said, giving up my religious guilt, becoming a Buddhist, that's so cool. Where you came from? A Buddhist? Tyler? So then Tyler said, unfortunately, Derek, I have friends who are in their 50s and 60s who are still dealing with that. And it's so sad. You can you can have freedom, because it looks like it was a typo. You can have freedom from religious guilt and still believe in Christ. So apparently that's what they saying the Buddhist is. You can do what you want to do. That is true. I am unique. But the thing is when you really have that conviction, see, repentance means turn away and turn towards God. So you shouldn't be repeating. That's the whole point of repentance. And grace follows repentance, and He'll have grace and mercy on you. People are doing it the other way around. Everything is grace, more grace, 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 grace. I can get out here and I can do whatever I want to do with whoever I want to do it, and it's going to be good. But that's a conversation for another day. I don't want to get into that. But I might get into that on my daddy's channel. If I do, I'm going to let y'all know. So anyway, let's go on. Plaintiff carefully navigated a friendly demeanor to prevent the loss of income and opportunity on the one hand, and on the other, a firm boundary against Perry's advances. So it's like he was somewhat indulging, but not really. He had boundaries because he felt like he had to respond positively because this man might kill my character off. And this is where I'm making good money. So let me go ahead and make him think he attractive, or that I'm interested when I really may not be as interested. But I'm not going to let him get in where he fit in either. That's not what my intent is. Often when Mr. Perry started drinking, and he drank, he would demand more attention from plaintiff and get more aggressive with his flirting. On one occasion, when Mr. Perry was drinking, he started to become extremely annoyed when Mr. Dixon avoided him. Mr. Perry stated that of the 600 people in his phone book, he only wanted to talk to Mr. Dixon. So then this is Tyler. He said, treat myself right. What are you doing, Derek? He literally spelled it like that. And then Derek said, just talking to my sister. And he said, I roll. Fine. Good night. I'll go through the 600 people in my phone book and be annoyed that I don't want to talk to any of them. So then Derek says, trying to get off so I can go to sleep, LOL. And then Tyler responds, I understand, LOL. Then Derek responds, LOL, apparently you're not the only one that's been drinking tonight. And then Tyler says, I just started. And then he says they didn't, LOL. So he knew Tyler was on that sauce, is what he's saying. And I guess his sister must have been on that sauce too. So that's why he was on with her for so long. Make sure y'all hit the like button, please, and subscribe to the channel. Yes, Jane Doe, this is a real lawsuit filed in LA. It is. Dixon did his best to tiptoe around Mr. Perry's sexual aggression while keeping on Mr. Perry's good side. Mr. Perry made it clear to Dixon that if Dixon ignored Perry or failed to engage with the sexual innuendos, Dixon's character would, quote, die. And in the next season, indeed, Dixon's character, quote, Dale, was shot 4 times. I remember Dale was shot 4 times in the chest at the end of the first season on the Oval. And Perry always held this over Mr. Dixon's head, implying that Dale would survive if Dixon kept Perry happy. What? Say it ain't so. Once Perry recognized the extent of control he had over Mr. Dixon, he escalated this behavior. On multiple occasions, Mr. Perry actually assaulted Mr. Dixon, including one instance where he forcibly pulled off Mr. Dixon's clothing, groped his buttocks, and attempted to force himself on Dixon. Mr. Dixon told a drunken Perry no and attempted to remove Mr. Perry's hands, but Mr. Perry held tightly onto Dixon's waist. Mr. Dixon was only able to escape after de-escalating the situation by abruptly changing the subject. The day after the assault, Mr. Perry called and texted Mr. Dixon relentless, saying, quote, tried you, call me, end quote, and quote, I really need to talk to you. Please call as soon as you can, end quote. Finally, when Mr. Dixon answered Tyler Perry's call, Mr. Perry profusely apologized for the actual assault while blaming it on other things. Perry continued, he, quote, didn't know why he would do that. Maybe he was self-sabotaging, end quote. You was something, because this is dumb. Dumb, dumb, dumb. If it happened. Perry continued, he didn't, quote, know why he would do that. Maybe he was self-sabotaging. On the very same call where he apologized for the actual assault against Dixon, Perry told Dixon, quote, and don't worry, we're going to do your show, end quote, referring to the pilot that Perry knew Mr. Dixon had desperately wanted to produce. So this going to be like he said, she said type stuff, because apparently he ain't put that in the text, his apology and all of that. He put that on, it was on a phone call, allegedly, according to this. Shortly thereafter, Mr. Dixon got a call from Perry's lawyer saying that, quote, Christmas had come early, end quote, and that Dixon was getting a substantial raise and the show was greenlit. Perry's attorney explicitly warned Dixon not to tell any other actor on the show about Dixon's raise because no other actors were getting raises, only Dixon. You so special. And Perry kept telling Dixon that he was very sorry and that the harassment would not happen again. However, the harassment and assaults continued. Mr. Perry would also try to deflect the blame for the actual assault by saying that Dixon didn't have a strong enough no. No, you didn't. Perry told Dixon that, quote, you have to be able to say no to propositions of X and mean it and make it clear. So let's look at this text. Nice. Santa Monica is nice. I'm glad you're going out there. How is your, quote, no? Is it stronger? You got to have a strong no. So he responds, this is Derek now. Yes, it's strong. My mom literally thinks I'm going to sell my soul to the Illuminati. She heard Kanye say that it's real. So then Tyler said, well, I don't think that, but I do think that you have to be able to say no and mean it and make it clear. So he responds, I'll only say yes if it gets me on an Oscar. Joking. I'm just playing. Yeah, that ain't nothing to play with, Derek. You see what you alleging he's done. Like, he said, I hear you. Then he responds, well, the only one who could have gotten that for you through X is in prison. Wait. Let me reread that. Well, the only one who could have gotten that for you through X is in prison. So just stick to the no unless you are really into him. And then got the wink emoji. Dixon did not know how to answer without facing retaliation, cancellation of his production contract, or perhaps being killed off the show. So instead, Dixon made jokes out of the situation, stating that I only say yes if it gets me an Oscar. In response, Tyler Perry stated, the only one who could have gotten that for you through X is in prison, so just stick to the no unless you are really into him. Perry reveals through these text messages that the no he was referring to was Dixon's no to X in exchange for promotion in the industry, classically known as quid pro quo sexual harassment. Perry sent this message to Dixon because that is exactly what Tyler Perry was doing. At some point, Dixon left Atlanta and moved to Santa Monica to create distance from Tyler Perry. However, even as long distance, Mr. Perry continued to actually harass Mr. Dixon. Hit the like button, y'all. Pamela R. says, successful black men, more like dumb black. This is so dumb. The more I'm reading, the more I'm getting aggravated. Thank you so much. Somebody gave a membership. Thank you. Name change. I appreciate it. Queen Shadina, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate the support. DC Lively, thank you for the super chat. Granted the Great 221, thank you as always for supporting the platform. You too, Joy Janae. You know I got my consistent supporters. I appreciate you so much. Did my eyes fail me? How much? 260 million, I believe, but we ain't got that far. And we ain't got that far yet. Okay. So they go with the parties. You know, you have to put where the parties are and where they reside. This is in state court. So I'm assuming everyone resides in California. That's why it was filed here. Or there's some type of contact enough with California for this to be jurisdiction in state court. A lot of times people do it in federal court because you have diversity of diversity jurisdiction, meaning I live in Michigan, they live in Georgia, you file it in the federal court because we have diversity. So because this is a state court, we can assume there's enough business contacts in California and also that there's residency. So it looks like Derek lives in the state of California. They say Tyler Perry, who is in state of Georgia and California and has extensive business contacts in California. We had TPS Production Services, which is the limited liability company doing business in the state of California, like I said, but they're headquartered in Georgia. Defendant and Action LLC is a limited liability company doing business in the state of California, but it's headquartered in Georgia. And so I explained why they would do Does 1 through 50. Plaintiff is ignorant of the true names and capacities of the defendant sued herein, Does 1 through 50. So they're allowed to put that on there under the California Code of Civil Procedure, Section 474. Plaintiff is informed and believed and thereon alleges that each of the fictitiously named defendants is legally responsible in some manner for the occurrences herein alleged, and that the injuries of plaintiff are herein alleged have been proximately caused by the aforementioned defendants. On information and belief, one or more defendants is the full or partial parent or owner of a wholly or partially owned subsidiary or division of the agent. So they're going into why. This is just the parties, and they're saying why these corporations. Venue and jurisdiction. This is why they're saying that this is the right venue, meaning the right court where it was filed in. This court has personal jurisdiction over all defendants because they have purposefully availed themselves. So that's the contacts, that's the residents, all of that. So the state has personal jurisdiction over them and are residents of the state and or conduct business in California. And this lawsuit arises out of acts that occurred in California, relates to their contacts with California. Further, the vast pattern of abuse included sexual assault, harassment, inappropriate, in addition to wielding control and power over a plaintiff, was consistently present when defendant Perry engaged in the most recent acts described herein. The location of all events herein alleged occurred within the jurisdiction of California. So for those that don't understand jurisdiction, you can't just go and say, let me pick that court. You have to show how this court is the proper place to file it. And the reasoning is to avoid what is called forum shopping. You get some states that are more favorable than other states in certain issues. So for instance, if you're in California, you get sued for defamation. They have one of the expansive anti-slaps. New York does as well. But you have other states that don't have anti-slap at all. So if you're doing a defamation lawsuit, then that is where you would probably want to file. You have some of which I think, is it Georgia? I think it's Georgia when it comes to defamation. I believe they have anti-slap for the state side, but the way it was drafted, you can't do it in federal court. So if you want to file a federal lawsuit based on defamation, you want to go to one of these federal states or whatever, federal courts rather, of which it's favorable to you. So it avoids forum shopping because everybody would be like, oh, because every jurisdiction, they handle things differently. So you will have, like, I'm in the Sixth Circuit, which is Michigan, Ohio, Tennessee, Kentucky, I think. And when from a federal perspective, when I do like my wrongful convictions, they may have different laws than over where California is in their circuit for the federal. So sometimes to change our laws, we might cite theirs, but theirs is just persuasive authority, meaning it's not binding. The court does not have to rely on it. They have to rely on what's in our circuit. So you may go to other places and it's so different. So it avoids forum shopping. You have to show why this particular court is actually the court that you should be in. Okay, so that's what they're going through right now. All the reasons why it should be in this court. Okay, so let's get into the factual allegations. I hope you guys understand the jurisdictional part of it. Yes, thank you guys so much. Make sure you guys hit this like button, please, and thank you. The Looker T washing them said these twisted rich men will never learn. It's always about actual shaking my head. Yeah. Miriam said, I fear for black people. Aries saved lives said on the sidelines for a period of time as rumored. And I'm thinking it almost seems like the way they're talking, and again, I haven't gotten to the factual allegations, but based on it, it sounds like he's trying to explain why he seemed like he was with the shits. I probably shouldn't have said that whole word, the ish, you know what I'm saying? So it seems like he is actually explaining why he is with it, why he was with it. It was just, oh, I was, because is that going to be Tyler's defense? Is he going to come out and tell people this was a consensual situation? Because it seems like the conversations are banter, both the ones that we've seen. And he's saying, I had to basically engage because I was trying to keep my job, which some people do. So I'm not saying it's not legit, but I'm wondering like if that's going to be the response, if he's going to actually admit that I did this. I had these conversations and it was both consensual. But Ray said, where's Christian Keys? I don't know. I talked about that in the beginning. Cynthia said, I hated the show The Oval. Tyler's shows have displayed to me too much violence towards Black women, and I have started to tune Tyler out. Black folk, clean up your acts. Money will not always protect you. Tyler went off on people that was saying stuff like what you saying. Okay, he ain't go off. But he did check folks and said, people say they don't like my shows. After Straw came out, they said it's the typical Tyler Perry. They tired of it. It was mixed reviews. I haven't watched it. Some people said it was good. Some people said it wasn't. They just sick of the struggle of the Black people in every movie. And his response is, I am capturing the Black woman and the struggle. And I've made more Black millionaires than anybody. And they was like, he literally was just on, what was that, the BET Awards? So, yeah. I don't know. Right. I don't know. Perhaps. This is all alleged, though. You really like Straw? Okay, I might check it out. Rich Auntie said this is given. See, Christian Keys never gave a name. Hey, Ray, good to see you, bro. Just as we are getting to the end of the Diddy trial, God has blessed her with it. I didn't want to talk about Diddy today. I'm going to be honest. I was over it. I knew the people were just kind of condensing charts, and I knew they were going to talk about the video again in the hotel, and I just was like, okay, I need a Diddy break. All right, let's get into the factual allegations. If you're just coming in, we are talking about the lawsuit that has been filed against Tyler Perry. And if you just came in, you're just getting to the facts. In or around September 2019, plaintiff worked for an event company called Legendary Events in Atlanta that has hired to organize defendant Perry's studio opening party. So he just came in to work at a party. Plaintiff was recruited by Tony Conway, the owner of Legendary Events and close friends of Tyler Perry. Mr. Conway decided to place Dixon directly in a role at a party that required frequent conversations with Tyler. Defendant Perry picked plaintiff out of a crowd. He was like, I see you. He picked him out of a crowd of employees present at the party and began asking plaintiff questions about his employment status and whether plaintiff was an actor. You look nice. Do you act? That's a liner. In or around early October and on the last day of the party, defendant Perry insisted that he and plaintiff exchanged phone numbers, and Perry subsequently texted plaintiff to introduce himself. Perry began by asking Dixon about his dreams and aspirations. Tell me your dreams and your aspirations. Dixon told Perry that he was interested in acting and writing. Perry then told Dixon to do an audition over the phone and send it to Perry. Dixon told Perry he was at a Halloween party. Perry asked to see pictures of Dixon in costume, and Dixon complied. When Perry saw the pictures, he texted Dixon, quote, I was going to say, your cowboy needs a sugar daddy, end quote. You knew from the first, like, what? Your cowboy needs a sugar daddy. Perry continued with, quote, you look great. You're just lacking costume parts. Sorry, don't want to offend, end quote. So, that's the little, just trying to see what the response is going to be. That was the Let me give an inch. See how he responds. Dixon responded, quote, not at all. It's so true. Half-assed costume, end quote. To which Perry replied, what's true? Cowboy needs a sugar daddy? Implying that Perry wanted to be Dixon's sugar daddy. Dixon quickly shut down those comments by reiterating that what he said earlier, that the truth was that he was lacking costume parts. Shortly thereafter, Dixon's boss at Legendary Events called Dixon and told him that Tyler Perry was having another event in LA and specifically wanted Mr. Dixon to fly from Atlanta to LA to work on the event. Excited for the opportunity to fly to Los Angeles, Dixon was flattered and jumped on the opportunity to meet Tyler Perry again. Shortly after doing the event on November 3rd, 2019, defendant Perry sent plaintiff several text messages that he, quote, would love to find plaintiff a job, end quote, and, quote, change plaintiff's life, end quote, insisting that they should, quote, make it happen. Perry sent Dixon what turned out to be an ominous warning, quote, be careful hanging around me. I cause dreamers to dream bigger. I cause them to not only believe, but do. Then let's make it happen. You're an artiste. You have to be fulfilled. Nothing else will suffice. The very next day, defendant Perry sent an email which contained an offer for plaintiff to play the role of, quote, Dale in Perry's television series Ruthless. Perry said it was a small role and that could get a lot bigger, thereby setting up the first stage in a series of escalating quid pro quo offers. At this point, Dixon did not know that Perry was interested in men or that he was looking for an actual relationship. Dixon assumed that Tyler Perry was genuinely a caring person who discovered the talent that Dixon always felt he had. Dixon filmed his role in Ruthless in mid-November and went back to his job as an event staff for Legendary Events. Approximately 1 month later, Perry bought and gave Dixon a new car because he hated Dixon's Jeep. Dixon was surprised and elated, like, oh! Dixon had no idea that he was being set up by Perry for extreme dependence. This sounded like what they saying about Jane with that house over there in LA. Stuff is starting to like overlap. And like the allegations they're saying, not to say they're the same people, but remember the dependence when it comes to Diddy, and that was supposed to be how they was tying this alleged crime in for Diddy. In December 2019, Dixon was requested to be a part of the event staff at another event at Perry's home in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. After that event, Perry started frequently sending text messages, making phone calls, and demanding that Dixon, quote, give Perry some attention. Why are you not giving me no attention? On New Year's Eve 2019, Tyler Perry texted Dixon, quote, I can't tell you the last time I pumped gas or went to the supermarket or fly commercial or packed a bag or had good X. It was before I was rich. He sounds annoying as hell. Like, he sounds annoying. If this is really him, he sounds very, very annoying. Like, what? He said, bro, that was the weakest. Black writers could say I'm upset. Okay. Ty said, how, Derek? How a grown man bought you a whole car and you take this for anything other than what it is after he flirted with you at this party? That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I don't know, Derek. Christian said his predator bought him a car too. You know, Christian came and made his allegations and went on with the rest of his life and was like, I never said a name. What are you talking about? It's like, but you described very, very vividly. Yeah, he's annoying. Now, when you get in front of the cameras, you want to come across real humble. So it's like, I slept in my car and I had 500 no's, but God gave that one yes. And it was that one yes that got me to where I am today. Don't tell me God ain't good. Never. Mika says sounds annoying because he can't be direct. I don't know what happened with Christian. I'm just saying. He said he a lame. This sounds like some bad game. Okay. Dixon found these messages to be strange and untowardly coming from someone like Tyler Perry. But being new to the industry, Dixon played along by downplaying the actual comments and hoping that being around Perry would allow him to showcase his talents as an actor and writer. Soon after Dixon began giving Perry more attention, Perry made his move on Dixon in January of 2020, while most of us was sitting in the house getting our masks for the pandemic, okay? In January 2020, just a few months after his first acting gig, Perry invited plaintiffs to his home in Douglasville County, Georgia. Plaintiffs showed up to the home hoping that he would be given a chance to befriend Perry and show him how talented an actor Dixon was. At Perry's home, Dixon would serve many alcoholic drinks, which Perry also partook in. Dixon felt that Perry was genuinely interested in Dixon's talent as an actor and writer. Perry made no actual advances at Dixon while they were drinking, and the conversation was friendly. At the end of the night, Perry told Dixon, "Don't drive home." Perry said it was dangerous and that Dixon was too inebriated to drive home. Dixon agreed and was escorted to a separate guest room, not knowing that this was a ruse to allow Perry to assault Dixon. Dixon was tired and did not have pajamas, and so he got into bed only wearing his underwear. He only crawled in the bed in his drawers. Before he knew what was happening, Dixon felt someone else slip in the bed behind him and start rubbing Dixon's body around his inner thighs in a highly sexual and suggestive manner. Dixon turned around and saw that Tyler Perry was in bed with him. At that point, Dixon's stomach started to turn. He got the bubble guts and he began feeling nauseous. Instinctively, Dixon jumped off the bed and told Tyler Perry that he wasn't that sexual. Tyler Perry ignored the comments and told Dixon to turn around so Perry could see him naked in his underwear. Perry then commented on how beautiful Dixon's body was. Dixon once again told Perry that he was not into X. Dixon told and kept informing Perry that he was not into X in order to keep Perry at bay, while at the same time not insulting the person who was dangling his career in front of him. So this sounds like even before he gave him a job. So this is a text. Tyler Perry said, "I would hope that you would let someone hold you and make love to you. You are missing the best years of your life, my friend. Trust me, I hope you get past that block in your mind soon." So Dixon responded, "Well, it's not this person, but yes, I want that too. I'm working on it. Therapy is helping." So this is the therapy thing. He basically told Tyler he couldn't perform or he not into the whole actual thing because he got some mental block. He got some problems. So that was the excuse he came up with, I guess, when he jumped in the bed. Okay, that's what's in this. So they say Perry was implying that Dixon would hopefully get past the block in his mind and would let Tyler Perry make love to him. After the assault in January, Dixon felt betrayed. Perry continued to call or text Dixon every day, asking to talk to him more. Dixon ignored Perry, which led Perry to text him, "Derek, why don't you text me no more?" The more Dixon ignored Perry, the more aggressive Perry became until finally Perry offered Dixon a part in a new show called The Oval. So all this even happened before he got this job. Dixon was intrigued and was hoping that this would be the big break that he was looking for and chance for him to display his acting talent. On February 11, 2020, Perry told Dixon to quit his job at Legendary Events and come work exclusively for Perry. Perry was not able to control Dixon so long as Dixon had a secondary income that was providing for his basic needs. Y'all see this? This whole dependency. See, all of that stuff is coming. They talked about that in the Diddy trial. Like, you control, that was Cassie, they're alleging. How with Cassie, it was because he had her contract. Diddy had Cassie's contract, and he wanted, that's why she was testifying about, basically her job was doing this X work, so she didn't have time to do anything, and all her money became dependent on him. And he didn't like release her album, so she wasn't really making no money like that. She wasn't really doing any of this stuff, her acting, her modeling, because he was making her do this X work. And so she couldn't make other money. So she was dependent on him to give her the allowance or whatever that he was doing. I think her apartment or wherever she stayed, he paid for the car, the cell phone, all of that stuff. So a lot of this stuff is like real buzzwordy to me, is what this is giving in this complaint. But again, this is all alleged. I'm just drawing out some of the inferences that it seems like are the same things that they're saying is happening over in the Diddy trial as we speak. Hey, good to see you. She contextualized and said Dixon sound like he's leaving something out. It's over 1K, y'all. Make sure you hit the like button, please. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. All right, so let's go on. Once Dixon quit his job due to his role on the Oval, Perry started getting more and more personal with Dixon, knowing that Dixon was now under his control. Seemed like he was doing that before at the house, jumping into bed with you while you're in your drawers and drunk. Perry would often say things like, quote, I give and give and give, and no one ever does anything for me in return. No one ever gives me what I want or what I need, implying that Dixon was not giving him X. Perry started asking Dixon about Dixon's sexual preferences and what role Dixon took on when engaging in sexual acts, i.e., whether he was a top or a bottom, which is actual term means whether Dixon preferred to give or receive anal. Perry further indicated to Dixon that he had X with men before and that, quote, he was a top. Perry further told Dixon that, quote, when you have a big DICK and when you hit the G spot right on these bottoms, they go crazy, end quote. Perry further told plaintiffs that he wanted a man who was in a relationship with another individual, but with whom he could be emotionally involved and engage in sexual acts with, like a, quote, friends with benefits relationship, because Perry did not have time to deal with the emotional aspect of a relationship, only the physical. He said he just wanted to get off. Despite these comments, Dixon knew that a full-throated refusal would land him in the doghouse and might result in his role being cut on the Oval. Fearing that his career would end before it began, Dixon put up with these comments and continued to maintain that he was not the actual type. On or about March of 2020, Dixon received the script for the Oval. He was written in as a season regular and was therefore expected to quit his job with legendary events. Dixon's character was written as gay, homeless, and desperate store clerk who had to sleep with one of the other characters for a place to stay. More importantly, at the end of the season, his character would be shot 4 times in the chest. Dixon felt that this was a way for Perry to test Dixon out for a year and see if he would be loyal to Perry. When Dixon asked Perry about the shooting, Perry indicated that Dixon did a, quote, good job. Dixon would be back, and that a shooting didn't necessarily mean that Dixon's character was out of the script for future seasons. Perry commented that Dixon's character was only shot in the chest, not in the head. So he could live. It's cool. You decide whether you live or die. Dixon immediately understood that his job security depended on his, quote, relationship with Perry. From this point on, Dixon worked with the constant fear of losing his job if he did not engage with and endure Perry's sexual harassment. Shortly after giving Dixon his news, and after telling Dixon that future seasons were dependent on Dixon's doing a good job, Tyler Perry invited Dixon to his home in Atlanta. Plaintiff asked questions and tried to wiggle his way out of the invitation because he remembered what happened the last time the two were alone. However, plaintiff knew that his job security, income, and livelihood depended on his attendance. Plaintiff had seen other employees of Perry's who had experienced sudden, quote, deaths on the show when they fell on Perry's bad side. In fact, Perry had made it clear to Dixon that he would often kill characters in order to get an actor to be loyal or obedient. When Dixon arrived at the house, Tyler Perry gave Dixon a warm welcome and was very friendly. Soon after, Tyler Perry started asking Dixon a slew of sexually charged questions, even asking if Dixon, quote, liked it rough in bed. Perry then physically reached out and violently grabbed Dixon's throat, attempted to physically choke Dixon, and remarked, "Wow, look how excited you just got. You do like that." Dixon was horrified, shocked, and in a panic. Dixon never thought that Tyler Perry could get so violent and would place his hands on Dixon's throat in an actually aggressive manner. Dixon did not enjoy or consent to any of this conduct. Dixon was in shock and took steps to immediately de-escalate the situation. Due to the onset of COVID-19 pandemic in March 2020, filming for The Oval was postponed indefinitely. During the period in which filming for The Oval was postponed, Tyler Perry would make FaceTime calls and other contacts to Dixon's almost every day, treating Dixon as his on-call pets. Dixon felt obligated to answer for fear of losing his role, income, and career. Perry often asked Dixon about his whereabouts, often demanding that Dixon respond immediately. When he didn't, Perry would send text messages to Dixon stating, "Derek, grrr, and what are you doing?" Additionally, Perry was jealous of anyone who Dixon had a relationship with. Tyler Perry told Dixon that if Dixon got COVID-19 from his roommate at the time, Dixon would not be able to shoot The Oval. Perry encouraged Dixon to move into one of the on-set studio houses owned by Perry, where Perry would have more control over Dixon's whereabouts. Thereafter, Perry would text plaintiff about other actors in his show, Ruthless. Perry told Dixon how he manipulated employees through ruthless retaliation. Perry told Dixon that he did not like the way an actor behaved or the way the actor was acting. The character would simply, quote, die in season 2. Dixon understood that Perry was informed Dixon to be cautious about disappointing or upsetting Perry. As a result, Dixon continued to put up with Perry's suggestive messages and sexual advances while doing his best to protect himself by taking notes and amassing evidence of the sexual harassment and keeping old texts. Let me read that again. As a result, Dixon continued to put up with his suggestive messages and sexual advances while doing his best to protect himself by taking notes and amassing evidence of the actual harassment and keeping old text. So you basically was like, this a whole setup. Allegedly. That's what you saying. I was making it seem like I liked him, but I really did not like him. I just wanted my job, and I did what I could to try to keep him off. And then I was still keeping text and so I could protect myself in the future. Thank you, Sherry, for the cash app, sis. I appreciate that. Very kind of you. You said another one bites the dust. This is a lot, y'all. Sexy Irene said, "This does not shock me if it's true, but I have nothing to say. I just enjoy hearing you read these things." Yes, Holly Weird, 202 Butterfly, man. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Rossi, thank you for the super sticker. And yeah, I think that's it. Let's get back because it's a lot here. It's a lot going on here, guys. I hadn't read this. I'm like, hey, Miss Sheree, good to see you. You said I was wondering about that fake scene in the Oval. Mixtress Monica, thank you for the super chat. You said, cut the damn check, my dear, run it. You waiting on the secret video? Miss T, I don't know. He said he been keeping receipts. Dr. Max said to be drunk, he has an excellent memory. He did say he a script writer. Shoot, I wonder how much he helped in providing this information. I don't know. I'm just reading the complaint. These are all allegation, guys, okay? Tyler's going to respond once he's served. And we're going to see what Tyler got to say. So in one conversation in or around April of 2020, Perry told Dixon that Perry imagined Dixon prancing around in a cowboy outfit. Talking about where them fans at? Where them fans at? And that Perry did things to Dixon and that he couldn't talk with Dixon about any further because they were, quote, so wrong. In or around April 2020, and while Dixon was living in the studio homes on set, Perry often coerced Dixon to drink alcohol. Y'all see what's happening here? And then get on the phone with Perry. Perry would frequently have someone drop off alcohol at Dixon's door. Perry would eventually turn these phone calls into actual explicit rants. Perry would get frustrated with Dixon and tell Dixon that he was not giving Perry, quote, what he needs. Dixon's refusal to succumb to Perry's actual advances caused Perry to be ever more frustrated. Eventually, Perry warned Dixon that if Dixon told his castmates about the harassment, Dixon would be opening himself up to lots of questions and foolishness, and demanded that Dixon not discuss any other conversation with his castmates. Let's read this. Perry upped the stakes by telling Dixon point blank that he was not to tell anyone about their friendship. Quote, Perry told Dixon that it should remain a secret and tried to make it seem like his secret was for Dixon's benefit. Okay, let's see what this says. All right. Listen to me. If you let the cast know that you and I have a new friendship, then you are opening yourself up to a lot of questions and foolishness. You want them to know that you are there because of your talent and not because we have a friendship or because Tony got me to give you a job. You earned your spot like everyone else. Don't give people an opportunity to play you small or they will. I can't teach you everything. Unfortunately, there are some things you'll have to learn yourself. Because when we go back to work, I'm not going to know you. So basically, I'm about to ignore you when we get back to work. Thank you, Elisa, for the Cash App. I appreciate it. So very kind of you. Baby, I can't teach you everything. And when we go back to work, I don't even know you, okay? I don't have any friends that work for me, my friend. Professionalism is key. And then Derek responds, you're totally right. And he responds, I hope you got it, my friend. And he responds, that makes total sense. So then Tyler allegedly responds, just watch the behavior of everyone around me on set. And Derek said, yeah, I will. Don't want to give anyone that opportunity because work is work. My sister said, keep it on the down low. Leandra said Christian Keys is the EP on All the Queen's Men. Yeah, it's supposed to be his show, and I guess Tyler Perry's production company is the one that produced the show or distributed it or whatever. He'll run him a few dollars like Christian won't hear from Dixon anymore. Did he coerce the crime? Well, listen, I don't know. LeClaire said Perry's actual preferences have come into question for years. Why is anyone surprised that this is happening? I don't think that we are surprised because you're right. We have heard rumors of this. The thing is this, though. Let me turn this off so y'all can see the full thing. I don't know. I'm getting mixed feelings about this complaint. I'm gonna be honest. I feel like it's too much explaining as to why you didn't say no in none of these texts, or you didn't like brush it off, tell him like I'm not about that life, or the fact he was kind of showing you who he was before you even started working for him. And your explanation is I wanted to show him that I was a good actor. Well, people get agents and they audition for roles all the time. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. So I'm just saying me. I'm getting mixed feelings on it. We'll see. All right. So you got to keep it. Perry continued to actually harass Dixon on June 27, 2020. Defendant Perry texted Dixon that all he wanted for his birthday were biscuits and BJs, referring to blowjobs, just in case some of y'all ain't know. He said oral X. But that all Perry ever received were biscuits, insinuating a request for oral from Dixon. This text was followed by other messages calling Dixon cute, cutie, and that Perry was just thinking about Dixon. Despite these advances, Dixon continued to act professionally and continued to tell Perry he was not sexual. That seemed to be the only way of keeping Perry at bay while keeping his job. In July 2020, Perry remarked about how much he loved the script for Dixon's television series called Losing It and exclaimed that he wanted to shoot the pilot for it. Perry would never really work toward that goal, and that Perry was really doing what Perry was really doing was making Mr. Dixon more dependent on Perry so that Perry could later extract actual favors from Dixon as a quid pro quo to produce the pilot. In or around August 2020, Dixon and his castmates began shooting for the Oval after delays due to the COVID-19 pandemic, during which time all castmates' crew lived on the studio set in a quarantine bubble. Shortly after Perry confided in Dixon that two cast members were pissing him off and that Perry swore that he knew, quote, how to fix this ish, Perry added that he loves killing a mother effer in a show that no one expects. So basically, this whole about how to fix it, that's what I was wondering the context, because in the intro, you don't really know the context. So apparently, Perry confided in Dixon that two cast members were pissing him off and that he just, he'd kill him off the show. So we went over this already. Perry added he loves killing a mother effer in a show that no one expects, that he was going to shoot them all, shot and kill them mofos, referring to killing off characters in the Oval played by actors who Perry wanted to retaliate against. More importantly, Perry stated in one text message, I need to shoot the shoot out early, which Dixon understood to mean that unless the actors knew they were going to die and that their time on the show was over, they wouldn't change their ways. So according to this text, it has Tyler saying, they are stupid to think that. So stupid. I'm going to have a come to Jesus moment with them. I think I'm going to shoot them all, get them shot. And then his friend Derek Dixon come back, that'll do it. They'll be like, wait, and got the eyes. So then Tyler says, I may need to shoot the shoot out early. Probably the shot out early, maybe. And Dixon said, like Tuesday, laughing the most. So you laughing at him talking about taking people out and them losing their job. It's funny to you because you feel like you covered because you his friend. Or maybe, okay, that Beyonce song on the loudspeaker for everyone. So then he got a picture of Beyonce. And it's, you must not know about me. That's the words it got on here. So it's irreplaceable. And then Tyler said, I was just about to text you this. So then they said Perry was going to film the shootout early so the actor would be more submissive to Perry's request. Perry intentionally made these comments to instill fear in Dixon. Mr. Dixon now knew that he too would lose his job if Dixon did not play ball with Perry's actual harassment. This is what Perry had been setting up. Dixon was now fully reliant on Perry for his income, hope, and future aspirations. Perry made it clear that Dixon was not to disclose the relationship to anyone else, and Dixon was aware that Tyler Perry would kill him off the show for good, thereby ending his career. That's just you off of the show. A lot of people done got, unalived on shows. Basically, if Dixon got on Perry's bad side. To top it all, but you was laughing about it when you was talking about other people's demise on the show. Do it Tuesday. Go, Tyler, go. Kill them all off. It's cool. Like what? To top it all off, Dixon already knew that his character was shot 4 times at the end of the season, but that the shots might not be fatal. In July 2020, Perry read the script of Dixon's pilot and told Dixon that he loved the show so much he wanted to shoot the pilot for it. Dixon did not know that Perry never intended on shooting the show. Perry knew that he could use the motivation of shooting Mr. Dixon's show to get Dixon to do what Dixon had been resisting for many months, which was to give Perry the actual gratification Perry so craved. Once the stage was set, Perry knew he could get away with actual harassment. During the filming of The Oval in 2020, Perry engaged in a severe and pervasive tirade of actual commentary, including but not limited to A, that Dixon, quote, liked to be choked. That was following Dixon being choked by a cast member in one of the scenes on The Oval. B, quote, why do you twist your hips when you walk, end quote. C, how can I get a day of Dixon? D, quote, when will you be thick again, end quote. E, quote, I love how I feel right now, but I don't like being horny, end quote. F, quote, I feel sorry for the person who flirts with me, end quote. G, quote, I've been trying to put that energy somewhere else, but everything is actual on this stuff, end quote. H, quote, that snake across the table made me think of a photo of Nicki Minaj from the music video from the song Anaconda, in which she references intercourse with male genitalia symbolized by a snake. I will gladly choke you right now. And this must be out of a text because he spelled choke wrong, referring to Perry's desire to choke Dixon in an actual way. J, a suggestion that Dixon should get braces behind his teeth, but that plaintiff would have to give up BJs, and that it could be, quote, dangerous for Dixon's partner, especially if they're not circumcised. That's when you were thick Derek, fun Derek, drunk Derek, before COVID Derek. I miss him, just without a butt. And, quote, thick Derek would have worked them pants out. Perry also photographed Dixon's buttocks while on set and sending the pictures to Dixon. 2 text messages of many show that Perry was jealous of seeing Dixon with other men, and that Perry describes Dixon as, quote, so beautiful. So this is the first text. Why did that photo make me jealous? You two together. He responds, ha, 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 I don't know. It's just Brad, LOL. Tyler says, LOL. Then Derek says, he just wanted to go for a quick walk to get his steps in, and now I'm walking to Chipotle by myself, LOL. And then Tyler says, thick Derek, get that Chipotle. And then Derek says, ha, ha, can you tell from that photo? Then Tyler says, no, I can't, only from your jeans. Then Derek says, ha, 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 that's how I measure too. If I'm not filling them out, I'm not working hard enough. So then Derek said, well, it's not this person, but yes, I want that too. I'm working on it. Therapy is helping. So I think that's about getting your mind right, because he said his mind was messed up. That's why he couldn't get it in. He said, no, not that person. That's what Tyler said. Ha ha. And then Derek said, just saying, LOL. Tyler said, I feel sorry for the person that you choose. And then he put the exclamation point. That's Derek. And Derek said, and I won't even take an aspirin from someone anymore. Ha ha ha. I would cry if that wasn't so funny. Why? And then Tyler says, what I mean by that is that you're so beautiful, when you finally are able to unlock your mind, you're going to make that person crazy. This series of comments and other unwanted actual references made Dixon highly uncomfortable. Dixon was caught in a bind. He could not complain to anyone at HR. He had nowhere to turn for relief from the actual harassment, and he knew that if he did not endure it, he would be killed off from the Oval. Dixon was unsure whether to joke back or rebuff Perry's actual harassment, so he endured it, knowing that his job was on the line if he did not engage. This is what I'm saying. I noticed that early on he's making excuses for like why he's responding in manners that sound like you with it. Like, Perry would also share intimate details of his own ex life with Dixon. Among other things, Perry would tell Dixon that he had not had a good ex since he became rich and that there were certain times where he had not been touched in months. On the second to last day of shooting for the Oval, Dixon filmed the episode where his character was shot 4 times, indicating a seeming end to his role on the show and his termination from the job. So it looks like this is Derek Wright, and we just had a heaping dose of it, and now it's back to nothing. It's really weird. So Tyler says, I didn't have any contact. What are you talking about? I haven't been touched in months. And then Derek said, oh, you mean touching? I thought you meant being around people. And then he said, Jacob. And then Derek said, I love that you only say that when I'm being stupid, LOL. I guess the Jacob's dumbass version of me. Tyler said, not dumbass, but blonde. Ray, you know you my co-counsel. You said the passport side. Wow, this is the same script from Cassie's lawsuit. Dad said, no, homeboy was enjoying the attention and was trying to get an envelope. It's giving that, just in my opinion. We can't tell he was uncomfortable, LVM. We can't. You said, I mean, Max said, I'm still stuck on the braces. Derek. And then he would text him, Derek, what are you doing? Elite Leo said, it sounds like they've been watching Diddy try. It's the coercive and all the different buzzwords. Thank you so much, Black, for becoming a YouTube member. I appreciate it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. That's what I said. Well, you might not have been in here. I said that. I was like, he did say he a screenwriter. I wonder if he helped with it. I don't think that's Cassie's lawyer. Sounds like to me he was just involved. Yeah, he has to. It sounds like to me as well that he has to somehow explain, like I said, why he's sounding like he with it. Because the first time Tyler made a pass on him physically was before he even got the role that he's talking about for the Oval. So it's almost like they may have had some type of relationship or friendship where they talk like this before you was on set. And you're trying to say he hung your career over you, but you didn't have one when you first started having these type of conversations with him. Or you went to his house and all this stuff. You had to know what it was if that's what he was doing. How did you not know? It was precisely following this day of filming when Tyler Perry knew that Dixon's character's fate was to be decided. Perry invited Dixon to his trailer for drinks. Dixon knew that refusing meant the end of his career, so he accepted. He is not the end of your career. Why does he is one person. There are so many. Tyler Perry ain't the only person out here that can get you a job if you deserve the job, if you can actually act. I think it's the reason, honestly, why Tyler Perry was concerned about people knowing they was friends, because I think Tyler probably believed people would think that he may not have necessarily been a great actor. But I remember his character, but not really, because I couldn't get with the Oval. It was there on the very same day that Perry dialed up the harassment to new levels. Tyler Perry asked Derek Dixon point blank, "Are you attracted to me?" and demanded that Dixon answer. Plaintiff reiterated the same way he did after the first assault by skirting the question. Dixon told Perry that Dixon, quote, wasn't that actual or looking for anything, end quote. Perry's incessant probing did not stop. Perry continued to talk about how, quote, good looking and sexy Dixon was, and that plaintiff was, quote, wasting his looks by not being free and having sex. Dixon repeatedly deflected these comments with neutral answers, constantly looking for ways to avoid Tyler Perry's actual interrogation while continuing to worry about his future on the Oval. Mr. Perry was testing how far he could go with Dixon. After enduring the harassment and doing his best to dodge the situation, Mr. Dixon got up and the two exchanged goodbyes. As Dixon was leaving Perry's trailer, Perry got up and pinned Dixon against the wall. Perry began to aggressively groping Dixon's buttocks in an actual motivation. Tyler Perry began reaching down towards Dixon's buttocks and groped Dixon's butt in a strong and actual manner and could not have been a mere accident. Dixon stood froze in horror, could not reciprocate or fight back. All Dixon could do was let his body go cold and limp. Seeing that Dixon had no desire in Perry, Perry told Dixon that he was drunk and asked Dixon to leave the trailer. As soon as Derek Dixon left the trailer following Perry's violent assault, Dixon became severely nauseous and extremely anxious about his job, career, and livelihood. Dixon felt trapped within the confines of the studio's quarantine bubble. There was still another shoot the next day. Dixon called his friend Justin Bryan on the phone and told him everything that happened and was unaware of any human resources representatives to whom he could report the assault. So for the people that's like, well, who did you tell this? Who did you report? They putting that in there because, people was like, you ain't never call the police. You ain't never do this. You ain't never do that. You ain't never say that to human resources and let them know what was happening. Plaintiff had no one to turn to and nowhere to go to save him from Perry's aggressive and actual harassment and exploitation. The next day, Perry acted like nothing happened. And this time he did not even offer Mr. Dixon an apology. See, it's interesting. Again, the apology sounds like it was on the phone, but all this other stuff is all in text. So the ones that's going to be he said, because Tyler Perry going to probably say none of that happened that he said was verbal, and it's going to be about credibility. Following this exchange, Dixon began to avoid Perry as much as possible. However, Dixon still felt the need to answer Perry's incessant text messages, so he changed his approach. Dixon often pretended to be asleep to avoid being harassed by Perry. However, Perry persisted by texting Dixon the following messages. A, are you awake? B, stop ignoring me. C, you are awake, Derek. D, wake up. I know you're not asleep. And E, give me attention. In or around early October of 2020, Perry invited Dixon and other actors from the Oval on a cash trip to Perry's personal island in the Bahamas. Tyler got an island, y'all, over there in the Bahamas. Dixon knew, as did everyone else on the show, that declining to go on the trip might cause Perry to erase you from the show. Dixon agreed to go, knowing that the whole cast was going to be there. One night, while in the Perry's private island in the Bahamas, the cast was having a party. At the end of the night, Perry told Dixon that he wanted to talk to him. Come here. Dixon was caught off guard. Who, me? Perry made alcoholic drinks and forced Dixon to drink with him. Coercion. Force. Dixon knew that he could not refuse the drink, otherwise he would risk upsetting Mr. Perry. Instead, Dixon tried to stay in control and sipped it slowly. He was like, I just won't get drunk. I won't get drunk. Tyler Perry did not control himself. He drank until it was clear that the alcohol had made him bold and actually aggressive. Perry told Dixon that he wanted a relationship with someone who could be emotionally and actually available to him, but would also be permissive of Perry having his own relationship with someone else. Perry said he could see himself having that type of relationship with Dixon. Perry insisted that Dixon needed to be with someone rich because Dixon liked nice things. Perry told Dixon that he was watching all the cast as they laid out in the sun with tanning oil. Perry continued raving about how seeing Dixon, quote, greased up like that, baby oil, was driving him crazy. Tyler Perry said he would have burnt the whole island down if one of the other actors or anyone else from the group had touched Dixon that night. At that point, he once again aggressively seized Dixon and groped his buttocks. Dixon once again did not reciprocate and froze. Perry got the message and told Dixon to go to bed. Dixon was terrified and could barely sleep. From that moment on, Perry became extremely frustrated and possessive. Perry wanted desperately for Dixon to be attracted to him, but Dixon was not. In one exchange, Perry sent pictures of himself from the Bahamas to Dixon. Dixon responded that the water looked nice. Perry got upset that Dixon did not see the stud in the picture and instead focused on the water. Perry called Dixon an hoe for laughing out loud at Perry's desire for Dixon to call him a stud. So this is the picture Tyler sent. Did you like what I see? So then he sends this picture to Derek, and Derek responds, nice picture. Yeah, the water does look calm. Tyler like, nice picture. He said, great, amazing, awesome picture. Tyler said, you don't see that stud in that nice picture? Rude. Derek said, LOL. Yes, that's a stud. And he responded, you a hoe. You know why he didn't get a male escort? Because he'd probably be sitting at that table over there in one of them districts. That's probably why. The resident therapist said money don't heal woundedness, nor does it release burdens. That's from our resident therapist over here, okay? He said this was the one for me. JB said this sounds like a blend of the script from Have and Have Nots in the Oval. I bet you the picture online. So if you think it's on his Instagram? Robert said, what is with these billionaires and oil? That's what I said. I'm like, they like the oil glistening on your body. These people get money, and it's like, I'm not doing this with y'all, Pebble Lane. You just did a reverse image. You're going to find it, huh, Very Cherry? Oh, he got receipts. He got receipts over and over again. You know what? Damn, talk about he going to get us some baby oil. You know what? I'm not with you. I don't know, around October 18th, 2020, and following Dixon's return from the Bahamas, Perry told Dixon that he was jealous that Dixon was giving too much attention to other men. Perry stated that Dixon was being too much of a, quote, social butterfly, and that he would need Dixon to, quote, sit still this week. Further attempting to exercise his influence over Dixon's interaction with other men, Perry continued to wield his position as Dixon's boss, demanding actual attention in exchange for his continued employment. These text messages were followed by others to Dixon like, Derek, don't you dare ignore me. I deserve better. I deserve attention all the time. Dixon, out of fear for the unknown future of his career. See, that's always going to be the response. That's what it's looking like. Out of fear for his career, he responded, trying to avoid pissing him off. That's what we're going to hear all through this lawsuit, is what it looks like. He continued to give Perry the social attention he demanded, even though Dixon would constantly get actually harassed. So this is the message. On several occasions, Perry would text Dixon while drunk. In one exchange, Perry told Dixon, you know what I cook? Derek, and then proceeds to say, oh, he said, you know what I cook? And then he said, Derek. And then Derek responds, spaghetti, cake. He said, I'm so drunk. I'm just talking ish. So listen, look like according to them, Tyler a whole lush too. Okay. He out here drinking and flirting with the guys and all of that. According to this lawsuit, Tyler, that's what they saying about you, bro. In December of 2020, Dixon began feeling depleted due to Perry's continued pattern of sexual harassment. The assaults and harassment began manifesting in his physical health, and Mr. Dixon had no one to turn to. Dixon visited a physician who indicated that Dixon exhibited severe symptoms of acute stress, insomnia, stomach issues, and dangerously low cortisol levels due to the sexual harassment and assault. The physician prescribed Zoloft and antidepressants for Dixon's ailments. The sexual harassment continued through the beginning of 2021. Perry continued sending Dixon unsolicited photos of Dixon's body from the set of the Oval with comments such as, hey, oh my God, look and at think Derek, thick. I guess they're trying to say, look at thick Derek. P, no, the weight different. I can do see it. First of all, I need Tyler to do some type of spell check. Like, go back and proofread. What is this? Thick Derek. Okay, good. And so there's something in there where he sound crazy. So we're gonna see that over here. Nope, I can't deal with Thick Derek. LOL. Then E, what's it going to take for you to have guiltless ex? Have you found that yet in therapy? Because remember, he's supposed to be in therapy to handle his blockage for X. What's your waist? I'm so glad. Think. I think it's supposed to be Thick Derek. Us back is what. Tyler, how you writing scripts and you talking like this? What is happening? Then G, break out the arse and thighs. H, you home? I don't want you out with your friends drinking. I, you are the rose, but you are so blocked that you refuse to be smelt or opened. J, when you finally are able to unlock your mind, you're going to make the person crazy, crazy in a good way. K, have you been intimate with someone? So this one has this text message. So Tyler, I guess, is in the black, and then Derek is in the blue. I know I need to smell the roses more. And then Tyler said, you are the rose, but you are so blocked that you refuse to be smelt or opened. Derek said, that is sweet. And I'm working on it. Hashtag therapy. I'm really scared that I'm going to waste my life worrying. Tyler said, been there. Stopped somewhere in my late 30s. I guess supposed to be stopped. Somewhere in my late 30s, early 40s. Okay, now L, why did the photo of plaintiff and another cast member make me jealous? You two together. We already went through that early up, so they're talking about that again. M, Thick Derek, get that Chipotle. No, I can't. Only from your jeans. We already went through that in the text message up. And Derek, is there to make men swoon? Oh, what I mean by that is that you're so beautiful. When you finally are able to unlock your mind, you're going to make that person crazy. Crazy in a good way. Dixon responded, quote, as long as my face doesn't get messed up, as long as it doesn't leave a mark, end quote. And Tyler Perry responded, quote, what will leave a mark, Derek? Say it. On your neck? What do you mean you haven't? Have you been intimate with someone? P, I can't wait to get that phone call from you when you tell me let go and you loved every minute of it, referring to plaintiff's desire to openly engage in actual encounters. Q, no straight man would be going on walks with you or cooking dinner for you unless they wanted to F you. I would F-U-C-K you. R, what are you doing hanging out with that girlfriend of yours? Quote, she wants you too. Everyone wants to F-U-C-K Jacob, referring to Dixon's character in the pilot of, quote, losing it. After several weeks of unreciprocated actual innuendos and demands for attention, Perry lashed out at Dixon on set and asked if he needed to, quote, punch Dixon in his stomach for Dixon to act the way Perry envisioned in the scene. This exchange was highly intense, and Perry's reaction stunned several cast members. Actors on set consoled Dixon for the abrasive interaction, confused as to why Perry overreacted in such a manner. But Dixon knew that Perry was lashing out due to his frustration at the lack of attention Dixon was giving him. On or around June 4, 2021, Perry invited Dixon to his house to spend some time together and discuss the pilot of Losing It. Although Dixon hesitated, remember, he always hesitating. He feared the consequence of disappointing Perry and believed once Losing It was a big show, he would be freed from under the clutches of Perry. During this visit, Perry made several alcoholic beverages for himself and demanded to know why Dixon was not having sex with anyone. Perry probed further about Dixon's ex-life, insisting that the two were becoming increasingly drunk and it was time to end the night. Perry then led Dixon to a guest house where a guest bedroom was. Dixon would be staying there that night. Inside the guest bedroom, Perry motioned to Dixon to come see a weight monitor that he had. Perry told Dixon that for the monitor to work, Dixon would need to step on the monitor wearing only his underwear and pushed Dixon to try it out. Dixon tried to avoid the uncomfortable situation, but decided it was better to comply and hurry to bed than to wait for the alternative at that point. After weighing himself, Dixon walked towards the guest bedroom, followed by Perry, who then asked Dixon for a good night hug. Rather than arguing, Dixon complied, at which point Perry reached out and yanked Dixon's underwear down from behind. It was like, whoosh. Perry then began to vigorously grab, grope, and play with Dixon's buttocks in an sexual manner. Dixon was naked, stunned, and seized by tremendous fear. Dixon started to tell Perry that he, quote, did not want his underwear down, and that Dixon, quote, didn't want to be naked, end quote, and that Dixon, quote, didn't want this. Dixon quickly reached to pull his underwear back up. As soon as he did, Perry grabbed Dixon's reaching arm with a tight grip and held fast. Tyler Perry told Derek Dixon, relax, and to just let it happen, and that Perry wasn't going to hurt Dixon. Perry continued to actually grope his buttocks. Dixon's anxiety rapidly escalated, thinking that he might soon be raped. Dixon was not sure what to do, and his breath shortened. Perry ignored Dixon's refusal and held Dixon's hand fast, preventing him from reaching for his underwear. Dixon was naked and being groped by a large, drunk, and actually frustrated 6'5" man who had Dixon in his clutches. Dixon did not know if he was going to have to get into a physical fight, but he knew that any efforts to fight back were hopeless. Perry had armed security at his gate, was much larger than Dixon, and told Dixon that he had several guns in his house. Dixon was desperate for a way out and remarked that he couldn't do anything actual because he was so hungry, attempting to change the conversation. Dixon asked, quote, is there any food up here? Which prompted Perry to withdraw and order pizza. Dixon, in fear of his safety, followed Perry into the main house to eat the pizza. Afterwards, Dixon returned to the guest house and, unable to lock the bedroom door, locked himself in the guest house bathroom and slept on the floor. Dixon then attempted to contact some close friends about the incident. The following morning, Dixon realized that he had left his car keys in the main house, and upon going to retrieve them, encountered Perry. Perry told Dixon that last night's incident was why the two shouldn't drink together, and that the previous night's incident shouldn't have happened. Dixon responded saying, oh, so that was my fault? To which Perry replied, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that shouldn't have happened and I drank too much. Attempted to excuse himself for grabbing Dixon's buttocks, groping Dixon, and attempting to have sex with Dixon against his will. At this point, Dixon left Perry's home uncontrollably shaken and contacted his close friends to discuss the unspeakable horror from the night before. Listen, Derek, they still got Lyft and Uber. You could have just took you an Uber when y'all drinking like this. Elite Leo said, grown man allowing another man to fill him up. Miss Texas said, you got to be careful going to people's house. That's all I'm saying, y'all. I'm like, y'all, this is in the 2020. Like, everybody was still taking lists. You just put your mask on. That's it. Miss T said, why is he still going? Because he don't want to make a man. So you think it's not going to make a man that you lock yourself in the bathroom when allegedly he's trying to get it in? He wouldn't be disappointed. Has Tyler put his, I vigorously deny every allegation, it's all a lie? Because he usually don't respond to nothing, though. See, has he put his statement out yet? No, I don't see it. This is all alleged. That's all I'm going to keep saying. I vehemently deny this, and I cannot wait to have my day in court. You all will see. Please just don't judge me based off of this, because this is not what it appears to be. And I look forward to my day in court. Y'all hit the like button if you're enjoying the content. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Not enjoying the content, but appreciate the content, as I say, because some of the things we go over, nothing about is enjoyable. And if anybody was actually harassed or assaulted, it's not very enjoyable. You know what I'm saying? But we are going over Tyler Perry's a lawsuit that has been filed against Tyler Perry by one of the actors, Derek Dixon, who was on the Oval. And I guess he also was going to do some pilot for him as well. The following morning, he realized that he had left his keys. Okay, so they went through all of that, the groping and all of that. He was shaken. For the next several days until June 6th of 2021, Perry texted and called Dixon incessantly with messages asking Dixon to call him or answer his calls. Finally, Dixon answered, at which point Perry began to apologize. See what I'm saying? A lot of the apologies and admissions sound like they're over the phone. But a lot of these exchanges where it seemed like you down for the get down is in these texts. Okay, so Tyler said he blamed it on the testosterone supplements he was taking at the time. Perry had confided in Dixon about these supplements in past messages and decided to use them as a scapegoat for his actions. Dixon emphasized that he was not okay with what happened and that he had never asked Perry for anything, to which Perry replied, I know, that's why I like you. So this is the text. It has, how do they make money then? Subscriptions. And Tyler says they make money from the advertising, lots of money. I love how I feel right now, but I don't like being horny, testosterone. And then Dixon said, oh yeah, from the doctor, but it is making you feel better. Tyler said, I feel so good, but I don't like being horny. I feel sorry for the first person that flirts with me. He said, LOL, LOL. Perry further attempted to rectify his misconduct by inviting Dixon on a yacht trip and telling Dixon that Perry was for sure going to make Dixon's pilot. Dixon realized that Perry was offering to make losing it to effectively silence Dixon. Perry sent a text message trying to arrange for Dixon to come on his yacht with another person so that Dixon would feel more comfortable. Dixon responded that he would not board the yacht and refused Perry's invitation. All right, Dixon said no this time. So he said, tried you, call me. Hey, I think the hangover hit me harder than I thought. Can we talk later? Yes, it was quick, but okay. So then June 6th, it looks like Tyler said, I really need to talk to you, my friend. Please call as soon as you can. Then on June 8th, he said, trying to do rooms on the boat. If I invite Bill, would you be okay sharing a room with him or not? So then he responds, hey, I appreciate the invite, but I think I need some more time and don't think I can go on a trip just, and it don't got the whole text on here. So I don't know what the rest of that says. After Dixon refused to go on the yacht, Perry did not text Dixon for 5 months. Sensing that Dixon was upset, Perry called Dixon once to update him that Perry was looking for a director for the pilot. During this 5-month period, Dixon was regularly in therapy. He suffered from severe depression, anxiety, stomach pains, and nausea, resulting in a new prescription for another antidepressant. Dixon was diagnosed with PTSD. I knew that was probably what was going to be the next diagnosis. And his therapist recommended that he seek outpatient treatment costing upwards of $20,000, a price too high for Dixon at the time. During that time, Dixon began speaking with people about the actual assault and was assessing his rights. As soon as Perry realized that Dixon was done talking to him, Dixon got a message from Perry's fixers. Perry's, quote, fixers contacted Dixon, indicating Dixon's character in the Oval, the one who was shot, would be returning with the new storyline next season. Dixon was receiving a graduated raise from $10,000 per episode to $16,000 per episode. That will continue to increase to upward of $19,000 per episode over the coming seasons. The attorney said that, quote, Christmas came early for Dixon because he was doing a good job on the Oval. However, they also told Dixon he was forbidden from letting his castmates know about the raise because nobody other than him would be receiving a similar pay increase. Lastly, The fixers told Dixon that Perry wanted to buy the right to produce the pilot of Losing It and planned to spend up to $1 million producing the pilot. Dixon immediately knew why he was getting this raise and why the pilot was being produced. He knew he could keep the money and the job or complain about the actual harassment, but not both. The situation facing Dixon presented a challenging decision that left him unable to take any action or make any decision. The prospect of an actual assault and harassment becoming public and dealing with Perry's highly paid attorneys was daunting. Perry had significant resources, whereas Dixon did not. Dixon's goal of working as an actor and being discovered for his talent might be jeopardized. In what was an extremely difficult decision, Dixon bowed to the pressure and fear of losing his livelihood, and in hopes of advancing his career, Dixon decided to return to the set and have his pilot produced. He insisted, however, and decided to put safeguards in place between himself and Perry. In or around November 2021, Dixon returned to shoot the Oval. It was then when he saw Perry for the first time in person since the June 2021 actual assault. Dixon suffered a panic attack in his trailer, prompting another actor to calm Dixon down. Seeing that Dixon was still upset, Perry knew that he had to up the ante. To ensure Dixon's silence, Perry began periodically texting plaintiff regarding the production of the pilot of Losing It to string Dixon along. Soon after, Dixon received a call from a member of Perry's production team telling him that they were considering shooting Dixon's pilot in the coming fall of 2021. Dixon was desperate for this good news, given the uncertainty surrounding his finances and concern about the future. On or around March 4th, 2022, Dixon signed the literary purchase agreement for the pilot, giving the rights for the series to defendant TPS. Dixon was unaware of TPS's pre-existing television contract with Viacom CBS, now known as Paramount Global, which would later prevent the sale of Dixon's show to any media outlets or streaming services for 2 years. On or around March 21st, 2022, shortly after seeing each other on the set of The Oval, Dixon and Perry began shooting the pilot. Perry called Dixon following the shoot, telling him that the show would net $2 to $3 million per episode and run for 2 seasons, quote, guaranteed. Perry purchased the rights to Losing It from Dixon and did not try to sell it to any network. In fact, Perry was under contract with Viacom CBS, preventing him from selling Dixon's show for an additional 2 years following the purchase. In other words, Perry spent money shooting a pilot for a show and then purchasing the rights to it, knowing that Perry could not sell the show for 2 years. Clearly, this was done for the ulterior motive of silencing Mr. Dixon. As it turns out, Perry had no intention of ever producing Losing It. Perry never made any effort to sell the show or shop it. Perry was only using the show as a quid pro quo to Dixon, holding his production over Dixon's head like the sword of Damocles. See, the problem with that too is, so you're saying he was holding that over his head, but you could hold the actual harassment over his head. How you holding that over your head when you saying you got clear proof that you could sue him for sexual harassment? I'll be going around like, yep, already, you would have a demand letter sitting there in your trailer. So how is he holding something over your head and you're saying all of this is because he knew that you had something against him? On around April 9, 2022, to his surprise, plaintiff received the script for another season of The Oval, in which plaintiff's character, originally written as a grocery store clerk, would play a male prostitute being pursued by a pimp. Oh my God. The character scenes and stories share eerie similarities to Perry's pursuit of Dixon. This is crazy. While it was not surprising that one of Perry's characters would end up this way, the timing of change to Dixon was a very clear message. As Dixon continued to read through his script, he started to notice that Perry included lines taken directly from the things that Perry and Dixon spoke about. Perry started to base the script on real life and made it personal. For example, Perry wrote about Dixon that, quote, "I don't like none of my itches running away. He was making good money for me," end quote. That's kind of what every pimp says, right? In or around April 2022, before beginning to shoot the next season of The Oval, Perry called Dixon to discuss the June 2021 actual assault. On the phone call, Perry lectured Dixon about how Dixon was overreacting to the actual assault because of prior actual assaults in Dixon's life. Dixon, you got some recordings? I wonder if he just gonna pop out and say, and he has the recordings, because every time he called me, I'll be recording, especially if he seems to be apologizing according to you on the phone, but he doesn't really put anything in the text messages. Perry said that there was a misunderstanding and miscommunication, and that Dixon, quote, needed to say no stronger. In other words, Perry blamed Dixon for the actual assault, claiming that Perry felt that Dixon's no was really a yes, because Dixon did not say no strongly enough. So as not to jeopardize his employment with defendants Perry and TPS, Dixon dismissed the conversation, especially due to the allegedly impending sale of his show to a major broadcasting company. This is blurry. Did you find a place? This is a text. I'm good. Production won't see something I'll be filming. Sorry, you know I have 9 jobs. And he said, I did have a place in Santa Monica. Can't read that one. Nice. Santa Monica is nice. I'm glad you're moving out here. And then he started talking about the no. We read that no part earlier about saying no more aggressively. On or about October 28, 2022, after filming the full season of The Oval, Perry told Dixon that despite shooting the pilot, it could take a while to place, and that Perry couldn't do any other television series until his deal was up with Viacom, which would take about 2 years. In or around January 2023, plaintiff indicated that he was moving to Santa Monica. He did so to put some distance between himself and Perry. Tyler Perry replied that he was glad to hear that Dixon was moving away and asked if Dixon's no was stronger before he left. Perry reiterated that Dixon should have a strong no and make it clear when he said no. But he was like talking about Hollywood and all of that, according to that text we read. This was Perry's way of once again referring to his June 2021 actual assault of Dixon and making it clear that Perry felt no remorse for assaulting Dixon against Dixon's will. Dixon remained calm considering these triggering comments because he needed Perry to help him with his dreams of producing a show, and because Dixon was still a regular actor on The Oval. Even after Dixon moved to California, the quid pro quo harassment attempts to cover up the actual assault by promising a show continued. Perry would call Dixon, who felt obligated to pick up Perry's phone calls and respond to text messages. These conversations would often start about work and the men's business relationship and then transition to further conversations about Dixon's sex life, adding to Dixon's trauma and forcing him to relive the actual assaults. Perry continued to envelop Dixon in his feelings of reliance and justify the actual assault that happened. Perry would call Dixon and say, quote, you'll understand when you have a hit show, end quote. Basically, you'll understand it better by and by. And in the same breath, refer to the actual assault by saying, quote, I'm so glad we're past that, end quote. Dixon knew that he had to just hold his tongue because Perry was still employing Dixon. The way he would have been on record, boop, I'd have got, On or around October 2023, Tyler Perry finally contacted Dixon, indicating that he was going to be finished with the Paramount Global contract in January 2024, that he would be able to start working on selling Losing It. Perry was just hoping that the statute of limitation would run on Dixon's actual assault claims before closing the door on Dixon's hope and on the quid pro quo, and Perry offered for Dixon's silence. In the same conversation where they are talking about Perry starting to do things with Losing It, Tyler Perry also asked Dixon who he was having sex with. Perry further pushed for details, asking Dixon if he was the, quote, giver or the receiver in this scenario, or plaintiff used protection and PrEP when engaging in actual acts. Perry continued to probe other intimate details about Dixon's ex life. Perry again told Dixon that Perry wants a partner with whom he could have an emotional, this stuff is repeating it because we saw that earlier. In December, here come Christian Keys. You knew it was coming, right? In December of 2023, Christian Keys, another actor who worked for Perry prior to Dixon's employment, posted a video on social media platform detailing his abusive experience with an anonymous Black Hollywood billionaire, which Dixon pieced together and believes to be Tyler Perry. Dixon heard Mr. Key's account and saw that Perry had been engaging in the same sexual conduct as other actors. Just like the interactions described by Keys, Perry would get drunk, climb into Dixon's bed, and start fondling his buttocks. Dixon wanted to share his experience with the media to prevent other actors from being abused at the hands of Perry. Around this time, Perry called Dixon, indicating that he really, quote, wanted to find a home for Dixon's television series, again perpetrating the quid pro quo after the actual assault to keep Dixon and his claims at bay. Then in January 2024, Perry told Dixon to begin working on a pitch deck for investors for the pilot. Despite having 8 episodes written, Perry only produced one, claiming that the president of his company, Michelle Sneed, conveniently misplaced the $1 million that were going to be used for the show. During this time, Perry further solicited Dixon's assistant with other films and projects that Tyler Perry was working on. Once again, Dixon was in a position where he could not say no. So then this is a text where Derek says, I can call you later or tomorrow sometime. He responds, this is Tyler. You have a really fresh voice and take on things. I don't know where this is going, but I laughed the entire time. I could see the world and the characters. My exclusivity ends in 30 days. I want to take losing it out to Amazon or Netflix after that and gauge their interest. But I also want to try and get you with the right people to help you make these shows work. They are not for my audience, but we need to find a home for this stuff. I don't want to miss another Schitt's Creek. You know that Eugene brought that to me first, but I didn't get it. Amin gets here tomorrow, so he's got my full attention. It'll be trapped until the day after Christmas, so let's talk then. So then he says, wow, I was worried you'd even like it because it's a weird concept. So thank you, Tyler. Thank you for believing in me. In or around March of 2024, Tyler Perry indicated to Derek Dixon that the individual who was meant to pitch the pilot became depressed and could no longer pitch the show. This was another excuse for the fact that Perry never liked the show and never intended to sell it. It's a lot of speculations coming out of this. Dixon did not get angry and allowed Perry more time to figure things out for the show. Mistakenly sensing that Dixon had forgiven him, Perry started back up with the harassment. Perry continued to harass Dixon, who was still working on the Oval and who was still waiting eagerly for Perry to sell losing it. Perry would tell Dixon that he loved Dixon, that Dixon should be living his life, and that Dixon should be having X more. Perry even indicated that he would send Dixon's show to Peter Friedlander at Netflix, but all this was just an attempt to remind Dixon of the sword of Damocles hanging over his neck. Later, Perry told Dixon that Netflix turned down the show. Dixon was never contacted by any individuals from Netflix regarding the show, and no sale ever materialized. In or around June of 2024, Perry, sensing that Dixon was getting frustrated about his show not getting off ground and still concerned about the actual assault being made public, offered Dixon a position as a writer on Perry's show, indicating that he needed a replacement to continue writing. I thought he wrote everything himself, no? It was only then that Dixon woke up and realized that Perry was never going to be serious about helping Dixon. Perry was only going to do things for Dixon if Dixon played along with the actual harassment and assault. Perry was only interested in preventing Dixon from exposing the dark side of Tyler Perry. Perry only cared that people still view him as the victim he once was, even now as he took shape as the victimizer. And I think he's referring to like his past. He said he was abused. I think it was in the yard or something, and his mom, somebody knew about it. And yeah, he has one of those stories when he tells. I know he's told it on Oprah. Okay. Dixon became sick to his stomach. Rather than continue down this path, Dixon took the heroic step of reporting the actual harassment to the EEOC. So before suing for like any work employment related, you have to go to the EEOC, and they usually will give you a letter to sue. After they go over it, they look into it. Sometimes they actually try to do like arbitrations or things like that. But before you sue your employer, you go to the EEOC. After reporting the actual harassment, defendant did not make any investigation to the complaint and did not take any steps to prevent further harassment from occurring. So that means, I guess, he's saying that once he made the report, of course, Tyler Perry knew about it because they advised them, and that means his companies knew about it. And they're saying that there was no investigations by TPS Productions or any of his other companies, and they didn't do anything at all, and they allowed the harassment to continue. Because defendants took no action to prevent further assault or harassment, Dixon had to quit his job working on the last season of The Oval. Dixon did so even though he was under contract to finish filming and stood to make close to $400K. Dixon did not want to be actually harassed or be placed in danger of actual assault again. So when he quit, he's trying to say the point of saying the 400,000 is so you can see that he must be telling the truth, because who is going to give up 400,000? That he left because of the sexual harassment. Defendant then retaliated against Dixon. Defendant told Dixon that if he quit and told the other actors why he quit, he would be in breach of contract. Defendant told Dixon that the only way out was to portray his departure from the show as medical leave due to the emotional distress caused by the actual harassment. See, this is what I was thinking. I was like, he was already going to therapy, so it may be some other stuff that was going on as well, but it would be a breach of contract. That's not retaliation. If you have a contract to finish a season and you signed your name and you walk off without finishing the season, how is that not breach of contract? Y'all help me. Am I missing something? He retaliated against him by saying, if you leave, I'm going to sue you for breach of contract. That is a breach of contract if you walk away before. And you need to tell the people you did it on medical, you're going on medical, because it's probably going to be people there that will testify that he told them it was for medical reasons when he left. So they're putting in there almost in preparation that, I'm just saying, this is what I'm assuming. It's all upon information and belief. He put it in there because to say, like, he has to tell them, if people come back and say, well, he told me when he left it was for medical reasons. He was stressed out. He has some things going on in his life or whatever. He got PTSD. I don't know. It's interesting facts, right? Very interesting facts. That is true, 400K, but he had made that type of money already. If he was making 10K an episode and then it went up to like 20K, he had made some decent money before he left, because the Oval had many. It's one of those where it's every season, it's many seasons to it. It's not just a one season, a one-off. So there were several seasons to it. I don't know. He would have just had to sue me. Yeah, because I would have been like, sue me. Because then I'm going to respond and say how you actually harassed me, and this is why the heck I did it. So go for broke. Go for what you know. Now, if he says, oh, he blackballed me, called all his friends, called everybody and told him that I'm lying on him and all of that, don't work with him because you might end up liable and or litigious. You have a litigious individual here. You know, they all talk. Then that's a little bit different. But to say, like, he said, if I leave, he retaliated by saying, if I leave, it's going to be a breach of contract. If you leave, it is a breach of contract. That's not retaliation. That's the truth. But I guess. Okay, so these are the counts. Now that we're to that part, I told y'all it was long as that. First cause of action is quid pro quo actual harassment. They say Dixon says at relevant times, Mr. Dixon was an employee at TPS and Mr. Perry was responsible for the hiring and firing of Mr. Dixon as defined in California. Alternatively, Mr. Dixon was an actor on the set of a show that Mr. Perry was producing for TPS and was therefore providing services to TPS and Mr. Perry, and they were involved in a business relationship, which is subject to the code. Tyler Perry made unwanted actual advances to Mr. Dixon. Tyler Perry also made unwanted verbal and physical conduct of actual nature The terms of employment, job benefits, opportunities for continued work, additional pay, and other favorable working conditions were made contingent by words and or conduct on Mr. Dixon's acceptance of Tyler Perry's actual advances or conduct. Mr. Perry made it clear to Mr. Dixon that he would kill off Mr. Dixon's character if he did not indulge Mr. Perry's sexual harassment. After Mr. Perry made his move and actually assaulted Mr. Dixon, Perry offered Dixon the opportunity to make a show if he remained silent about the assault, furthering the quid pro quo arrangement. Eventually, Mr. Dixon could not continue working given the continued quid pro quo harassment. The work conditions were such that Mr. Dixon was constructively terminated. So constructively terminated means that you feel like you don't have a choice but to leave. So you're not actually fired, like physically, you're fired, leave. But you can say a constructive termination is because of the conditions, I had no choice but to leave. So that's considered being constructively terminated. At all relevant times, Mr. Perry was a supervisor or agent as defined in California law with the ability to affect the terms of Mr. Dixon's employment and work contract. As further direct and proximate result of defendant's aforementioned conduct, plaintiff suffered physical sickness, physical injuries, body pains, anxiety, worry, embarrassment, humiliation, injury to his professional reputation, mental anguish, emotional distress, and post-traumatic stress disorder, an amount to be proven at trial. Plaintiff is further entitled to recover reasonable attorney fees, costs, and prejudgment interest in connection with this matter. Defendants committed the acts herein alleged maliciously and fraudulently with the wrongful intention of injuring plaintiff and with an improper and evil motive, rising to the level of malice and conscious disregard of plaintiff's rights, because the acts taken towards plaintiff were carried out by managerial employees acting in a despicable, deliberate, cold, callous, and intentional manner in order to injure and damage plaintiff. Plaintiff is entitled to recover punitive damages from defendant. That's what I told you all. He probably asked for punitive damages. That's how you get that big amount. Be asking for 200 million because you feel like this is so evil and callous and how you did it that it should be a deterrent. So this should deter him from this. We're going to hit him with some money that'll deter him from doing this again in the future. So it's supposed to be like a purpose of punitive damages is deter future behavior. So then a work environment harassment, that's against all defendants. Let me see what second cause of action is against all defendants. I didn't say what the first one. That was against all defendants as well. You have to specify who each, when you have multiple defendants, you have to specify who the defendant is for that count. So this would be all of the defendants. Again, it looks like all of that's the same. He was an employee responsible for hiring and firing. Perry was producing for TPS and therefore providing services to TPS and Mr. Perry. Tyler Perry made severe unwanted sexual advances and made unwanted verbal and physical conduct of an sexual nature toward Mr. Dixon, which caused the work environment to be hostile, intimidating, offensive, oppressive, or abusive. A reasonable person in Mr. Dixon's circumstances would have considered the work environment to be hostile, intimidating, offensive, oppressive, or abusive. Mr. Dixon's circumstances considered the work environment to be hostile, intimidating, offensive, oppressive, or abusive, and as a result was constructively terminated. Mr. Dixon had no other avenue to prevent sexual harassment, given that all HR functions and company functions reported ultimately to Mr. Perry. At all relevant times, Mr. Perry was a supervisor or agent as defined in California law with the ability to affect the terms of Mr. Dixon's employment and work contract. The terms of employment, job benefits, opportunities for continued work, additional pay, and other favorable working conditions were made contingent, on the advances. Mr. Perry made it clear that Mr. Dixon, that he would kill off his character if he did not indulge in the harassment. Same thing, look like direct and proximate cause, same thing as the first one. Third cause of action is sexual harassment in defined relationship under the RAL Facts, and that's against Tyler Perry, AA, and TPS. Mr. Dixon had a business professional relationship with Mr. Perry and TPS. Mr. Dixon was an actor on shows for Mr. Perry and TPS and entered into a contract to produce a pilot for a show called Losing It and to shop and sell the show. Additionally, TPS and Perry held themselves out as being able to help Mr. Dixon establish a business relationship with movie studios or other film production companies. Tyler Perry, the owner of TPS, made actual advances, solicitations, actual requests, and demands for actual compliance to Mr. Dixon. Defendant Tyler Perry and TPS, through Perry, also engaged in other verbal, visual, or physical conduct of actual nature. Defendant Tyler Perry's conduct and TPS's conduct through Perry were unwelcome and pervasive or severe. Defendants intentionally, recklessly, and wantonly acts resulted in harmful and offensive contact with the intimate parts of plaintiff's person. Defendant Perry used his authority, coerce, and exploit plaintiff to spend time with him on several occasions so that defendant Perry could physically, psychologically, and or emotionally, through force, manipulation, emotional abuse, intimidation, and retaliation, abuse plaintiff. These acts were done for defendant Perry's actual gratification. As a further direct and proximate result of defendant's aforementioned conduct, plaintiff suffered physical sickness, physical injuries, body pains, anxiety, worry, embarrassment, humiliation, injury to his professional reputation, mental anguish, emotional distress, and post-traumatic stress disorder, an amount to be proven at trial. Plaintiff is further entitled to recover reasonable attorney fees. This is all the same. Also, punitive damages. Workplace gender violence in violation of California Civil Code Section 52.4, and that's against all defendants. And as alleged herein, defendants are strictly liable for Perry's actions under the principles of respondent superior, as alleged herein, and otherwise had advanced knowledge that defendant Perry's would engage in this despicable conduct, and by their actions and inactions ratified, authorized, and condoned this unlawful behavior. So basically, when you have respondent superior, you're responsible for the people that are under you, that you had, that basically you knew this was going on and you allowed it. Thus, because you didn't do anything about it, we're saying you ratified it or you authored it, you condone it, you authorized it, condone it, and you co-signed it and put a stamp on it. And you knew this was unlawful and you knew your employee was acting like this. And because you chose to say it was okay, you're just as equally responsible under respondent superior. California Civil Code Section 52.4 provides sub A, any person who has been subjected to gender violence may bring a civil action for damages against any responsible party. The plaintiff may seek actual damages, compensatory damages, punitive damages. Actual damages would be like if he thought he was going to make $1 million on the project, on the pilot, the $400,000 he would have made if he didn't have to just leave. Those will be actual, like you can actually say, you know, what it is. We already went to what punitive damages are and also compensatory. Injunctive relief is basically trying to prevent somebody from doing something. So we want to do, you can ask for injunctive relief that would stop them from doing certain actions. Any combination of those, and he's not saying all of these are, he's just saying it sounds like he's repeating what the statute allows. A prevailing plaintiff may also be awarded attorney fees and costs. So this is all allowed pursuant to statute on what your damages are. Because sometimes you have statutes that prohibit things, but they don't have any type of relief. Like they don't say that civilly you can sue somebody. So there's no relief for you within the statute. So for the purpose of sub C, for purposes of this section, quote, gender violence is a form of X discrimination. It means any of the following. Sub one or more acts that would constitute a criminal offense under state law that has an element, the use, attempted use, or threatened use of physical force against the person or property of another, committed at least in part based on the gender of the victim, whether or not those acts have resulted in criminal complaints or charges, prosecution, or conviction. 2, this is the next definition, a physical intrusion or physical invasion of an actual nature under coercive conditions, whether or not those acts have resulted in the criminal complaints, charges, prosecution, or conviction. As alleged herein, Perry violated this code and he engaged in physical intrusion or physical invasion of actual nature under coercive conditions, even if those acts have not yet resulted in criminal complaints, charges, prosecution, or conviction. As a direct and proximate result of defendant's violation, they talk about all of the suffering, the pain, and all of that he's went through. That is the same. And also he should get some attorney fees pursuant to statute. The 5th cause of action is violation of the Bain Act, and that's against all defendants, and that's California Civil Code Section 52.1. The Bain Act provides that it is unlawful to interfere with the exercise or enjoyment of any rights under the Constitution and laws of this state and the United States by use or attempted use of threats, intimidation, or coercion. At all times herein mentioned, there was a professional relationship between plaintiff and defendants as set forth above. As alleged herein, defendants engaged in severe and outrageous sexual harassment and sexual assaults against plaintiff. Defendants' acts were calculated to prevent plaintiff from working free of sexual harassment or violence, and defendants' acts were further calculated to prevent plaintiff from reporting defendants' unlawful acts. Plaintiff's acts was a substantial motivating reason for defendant's unwanted physical conduct and ultimate sexual harassment and sexual assaults. Plaintiff is informed and believed and thereon alleges that the aforementioned conduct of defendants and each of them denied, aided, and incited in a denial of, discriminated, or made a distinction that denied plaintiff full and equal advantages, privileges, and services to plaintiff based solely upon plaintiff's refusal to submit to continue sexual advances and her objections to the physical. I guess it should have been his, right? Looks like a typo. Look like they might have done this for his objections to the physical harassment that was inflicted upon her or him, and therefore constitute a violation of the Bain Act. As further direct and proximate result of defendant's aforementioned conduct, plaintiff has suffered the same thing, all the sicknesses, the injuries, the anxiety, the PTSD, and all of that, and it was done maliciously, fraudulently, and all of that, as if, and he deserves some punitive damages according to him. The sixth cause of action is actual battery. Y'all all right? We almost done here. Make sure you hit that like button. See you later, ATR. You said good night. I've been in the bushes, but I need to sleep. It's almost 2:30 a.m. and I got to be up in 4 hours. I will catch the replay. Thank you so much for rocking with us as long as you did. The resident therapist said, personally, I am sad, and professionally, I get it. For always forever says, so if he punched him in his face for touching him inappropriate, could he be arrested for assault? Yeah. Years ago, I sent an invitation to TP to provide sessions to his constituents. The studio is 5 miles from my office. Never responded. Probably should have took you up on that offer. It sounds like, because it sounds like some unhappy people out here. She contextualized and said, the way this relationship started is bound to end this way. Shaking my head. Jay Liv said, HR is no one's friend, especially when the boss owns the company. Might as well go to the boss to complain about the boss. Deb said, Dixon, sir, next time get your check before he snatch your drawers. Joanne said, when others know your weakness better than you, you are in trouble. That's a word, Joanne. It could very well be a money grab. However, what if TP participated? That's true, Russell. I don't know one way or another. I try to be as neutral as possible. Thank you, Larry. Good to see you. I try to be as neutral as possible, but what I will say is, like, when I'm reading it, and I don't know, I can't turn the legal mind off. It's just amazing to me, though. I have to also look generally. He's telling his story, and then you're going to have Tyler's going to tell his story. And the more I was reading it, the more it felt like he was overly explaining why he had these nice texts about Tyler, and how it seemed like he didn't affirmative. He never really said what he didn't want. Then you have the actual assaults. They're nowhere documented at all. So that's going to be he said, and Tyler's probably going to deny that any of this stuff happened. So it's going to come on credibility when it comes to that. The text don't really help him to that degree, except showing, in my opinion, that they know each other. Because when I look at the text, I was like, So then, because obviously it's not just me that it come across as if you like each other or something, because you're explaining all through why you were responding the way that you were. You're explaining it away because it looks like you're okay with it. So that's why you're explaining in this document. So I'm sure he's gonna fill in the blanks. He's probably gonna say that was like my bro or best friend, or he may say it was more than that, but it wasn't anything that he did did anything like that with him. Now, at first, I think maybe they'll try to find some procedural errors like jurisdiction, or try to fight something like that first. But ultimately, he's probably going to deny, maybe procedurally, without putting too many facts. He's probably just going to say, if he does a motion to dismiss, I vehemently deny all of this. It's all a lie, blah, 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 and this and that. But as a matter of law, based on the pleadings and the facts in this pleading, this cannot go forward. That's like a motion to dismiss for failure to state a claim. So when you put the claim on there, they're going to say, I think some of these will get dropped if he did a motion to dismiss. Some of them, I think he threw as much as he could against the wall to see what sticks in this at this point. But some of the stuff may not necessarily satisfy the prongs. So it'll be a legal reason where your facts just don't fit into what you're accusing him of. That doesn't necessarily mean that what he's saying may or may not have happened either way. But I think he'll probably go that route first. Because if it really was some type of relationship, he's kind of denied it and it's been rumored. So either you ready to say, okay, that's what's up, that is kind of like what it is, or you're just going to stick to the legal realm and say, based on these facts, you are not satisfying the prongs for the actual claims that you are alleging. And Max said Tyler's going to settle this. When you settle this, though, I'm assuming this guy did a demand. And typically, in my opinion, that's what I felt about the Diddy case. If you allow the lawsuit to get out, you might as well fight it. Like at that, because the point of really paying beforehand with the demand is to avoid what's happening right now, which is all of us talking about it over and over again. So at this point, it's out here. Just like you can take the Cassie lawsuit off the docket, but the ones that have it, we have it. We all saw it. So you can't unring this bell when it comes to that. We all know some of the things that Cassie was alleging. Robert said he is really outing and embarrassed. Whatever happened, I don't know. His kid lives with him, from my understanding, but I don't know. He was dating a model lady. She was beautiful, but I don't think they're not together anymore. In a 5-year relationship, I'm thinking he has to have more evidence. We'll see. This is just the beginning of it. That's what discovery is for. But I predict that his response is going to try to get this dismissed once he is served. Yeah, once it's out, it's out. So the purpose of settling for millions of dollars is to avoid what's happening. That's why Diddy giving her $20 million, it was like, for what? Then you even piqued the interest of the FBI. Now you sitting there fighting for your life. In 2 weeks, you know whether you're going to be in prison for a lot of years or whether you actually going to be getting, go home to be with your kids. All because you was like, I ain't giving you 30 million. Now you spending about 100 million on attorneys. All right, we almost finished with this, y'all. You said Tyler better call Medea. All right, so this is actual battery. Y'all pretty much know why he said the actual battery. Defendant Tyler Perry intended to cause harmful or offensive contact with Mr. Dixon's buttocks and other actual areas on multiple occasions, and to actually offensive contact with Mr. Dixon resulted. Mr. Dixon did not consent to the offensive contact. Mr. Dixon was harmed and offended by Mr. Perry's conduct. As a result of Tyler Perry's conduct, Mr. Dixon was damaged in the amount set forth below. As a further and direct proximate result, it's the same thing. All of the sickness, body pains, anxiety, worry, embarrassment, humiliation, professional reputation, all of that. Actual assault against Tyler Perry. This is the 7th cause of action. Tyler Perry acted and intended to cause harmful or offensive conduct, that Mr. Dixon reasonably believed that he was about to be touched in a harmful or offensive manner, that Mr. Dixon did not consent to Tyler Perry's conduct. Mr. Dixon was harmed by Mr. Perry's conduct. Tyler Perry's conduct was a substantial factor in causing his harm. And further and direct approximate result, we have all the pain, anxiety, worry, embarrassment, PTSD, and they're asking for punitive damages. 8th is against the defendant TPS. So this is negligent hiring, supervision, or retention of an employee. So this is typically what we file when you want to blame it's your employee. Like sometimes if they're in the course of employment, you also will add the actual company because you negligently hired them. Like some people will say, depending on the situation, I'm not saying it's this one, but it's things like, we looked at that person's history and they have a history of doing A, B, C, D, E, F, G. and you hired him anyway? Or you hired him and knew he wasn't trained, or you hired him and now as a result, my client was injured. So they're alleging negligent hiring as alleged herein. Defendants and each of them and or their managerial employees or agents knew or reasonably should have known that employees of defendants were engaged in the unlawful harassing and discriminatory conduct alleged herein. Defendants and each of them knew or should have known their employees, including but not limited to Tyler Perry, had a history of engaging in unlawful or dangerous conduct that could cause injury to plaintiff and others, yet failed to take any action to prevent such injury. So they're using Christian Keys as the basis that you knew he does this type of stuff because what a Christian Keys said, even though he didn't name anybody. In fact, it is alleged that Christian Keys and others may have been subjected to the same sexual harassment, and TPS knowingly covered up the harassment to protect Mr. Perry. TPS allegedly took actions against Mr. Keys, including but not limited to paying Mr. Keys a certain sum of money and threatening him if he disclosed Perry's sexual harassment. At all relevant times, defendants in each of them and or their managerial employees or agents knew or reasonably should have known that the conduct and omissions alleged herein violated plaintiff's rights under state statute and common law. At all relevant times, defendants in each of them and or their managerial employees or agents knew or reasonably should have known that the conduct alleged herein would and did approximately result in physical injury and emotional distress to plaintiff. At all relevant times, defendants in each of them and or their managerial employees or agents knew or reasonably should have known that unless they intervene to protect plaintiff and adequately supervise, prohibit, control, regulate, discipline, and or penalize the conduct of defendants' employees as alleged herein, other defendants and defendants' employees perceive the conduct and omissions as being ratified and condoned. At all relevant times, the negligent, as you can tell when I do mine, I always say at all times relevant here too. So that's why I keep saying it like that. But at all relevant times, the negligent failure of defendants to protect plaintiff and to supervise, prohibit, control, regulate, discipline, and or otherwise penalize adequately the conduct and omissions of defendants' employees violated plaintiff's rights under state statutes and common law and was a substantial factor in causing plaintiff harm as alleged herein. IIED or intentional infliction of emotional distress as to all defendants. We see this in most lawsuits. Very high bar. Defendant conspired to and did engage in conduct that was extreme and outrageous and intentionally caused severe emotional distress to plaintiff. Defendant's conduct exceeded all possible bounds of decency. That's why it's such a hard bar. Because yes, is it bad if somebody get drunk and grab your behind? But is that something that we just say like we've never really heard of, and it makes us say, "Oh my God, why would somebody like really?" That is just so far fetched on just a human being. So it's very, very hard. It's, if you look up a lot of IIED cases where they've allowed that to go through, it's usually something that is just half the time you probably never heard of. You like, who even does stuff like that? So yeah, it makes you just really, it's like they say it shocks the conscious is usually the term that we use when we had IIED, and that's it was intentional. Now, sometimes you can do negligent infliction of emotional distress where you may not have done it intentionally, but this is a consequence of your action. Defendant acted with the intent and knowledge that plaintiff suffered emotional distress due to their inexcusable and outrageous conduct. Defendant's conduct caused plaintiff to suffer severe mental and emotional distress, pain and suffering, mental anguish, and loss of enjoyment of life. Defendant's unlawful actions were intentional, done with malice, and or showed a deliberate, willful, wanton, and reckless indifference to plaintiff's rights. Plaintiffs claimed compensatory and punitive damages. The amount of damages sought herein exceed the jurisdictional limits of all other courts, which would otherwise have jurisdiction. You put that part in there because different courts, you have to allege a certain amount. So for example, in Michigan, I think small claims, it got to be $3,000. You can't have a lawyer. If you go to our district court, it has to be less than $25,000. So $24,999.99. You got to go to our district court. You have anything over $25,000, that's the circuit court. So it can be $25,000 to $20 million. But they have different courts, so they have jurisdictional limits on what you say your damages are. So generally speaking, they're saying for this count, it exceeds the jurisdictional limit of whatever their jurisdictional limit in their court. I don't know what it is. And so they're not putting a specific amount for that count. 10th cause of action is retaliation. Before the taping of season 7 of The Oval, Derek Dixon made a formal complaint about the sexual harassment he was experiencing from Tyler Perry to defendants through his attorney. The complaint was protected activity. After reporting the sexual harassment, defendants did not make any investigation to the complaint and did not take any steps to prevent further harassment from occurring. This is against all defendants as well. Plaintiff was expecting the leave of absence to be paid medical leave. Oh, wait a minute. Instead, defendant told plaintiff that he should take a medical leave of absence from the show due to the emotional distress caused by the sexual harassment and not report to any of his coworkers the real reason for his absence. Plaintiff was expecting the leave of absence to be a paid medical leave. He says he was expecting, but did they tell you that it was paid? Instead, defendant made the leave of absence unpaid and therefore terminated plaintiff's employment. He said it was constructive, and constructive termination means that, again, you just cannot handle this environment anymore, so you choose to leave like you were forced out. But they're saying, I guess, it terminated his employment because they didn't pay his leave of absence. That it doesn't say he contractually was supposed to have one. It just says the plaintiff was expecting it. Plaintiff stood to make around $400K for the role in season 7 of The Oval. At all relevant times, defendants and each of them and/or their managerial employees or agents knew or reasonably should have known that the conduct alleged herein would and did approximately result in physical injury and emotional distress to plaintiff. At all relevant times, defendants and each of them and/or their managerial employees or agents knew or reasonably should have known that unless they intervened to protect plaintiff and adequately supervise, prohibit, control, regulate, discipline, and/or other penalize the conduct of defendants' employees as alleged herein, other defendants and defendants' employees perceive the conduct and omissions as being ratified and condoned. At all relevant times, the negligent failure of defendants to protect plaintiff and to supervise, prohibit, control, regulate, discipline, and or otherwise penalize adequately the conduct and omissions of defendants' employees violated plaintiff's rights under state statute and common law and was a substantial factor in causing plaintiff's harm. Prayer for relief. Y'all see that big old number right there? The plaintiff prays for judgment as follows. 1, for special, general, punitive, and compensatory damages according to proof at trial. 2, for reasonable attorney fees, expert witness fees, and other litigation expenses pursuant to law, so costs and attorney fees. 3, for injunctive relief where the court deems appropriate. Don't seem like they're asking for an injunction. 4, for all other relief the court deems appropriate and just, for a total amount of damages, including punitive damages. So they're asking for $260 million in punitive damages. So this is not just what he's asking for. He's asking for the special, general, and compensatory. And whatever the court deems appropriate, which you guys kind of put in there, he's asking for is reasonable attorney fees. So the reasonable attorney fees would probably be on top of whatever amount he's asking for, because you don't even know what that is for real. Depends on how far you go in litigation. So that's $260 million. And that's Jonathan over there, who is the one. Jonathan Delshad is the attorney. No, I don't think, somebody asked about if Cassie's attorney. I don't think so. So this was actually filed on Friday, and it probably did. I don't think it hit the docket till yesterday, because it takes a little minute once they file it in California. So it looks like, yes, for a total amount of damage, including punitive damage. So it does, I guess, include the damages in $260 million. But then if the court deems more, anything appropriate, you always throw that in there just in case the court figures, we feel like this is so egregious, we're going to add some sanctions or some law they may have. And then they're also asking for attorney fees, their expert witness fees, which are costs, because when you get into litigation, you have to get experts to explain some of this stuff, like the same way with Cassie. Why would you stay? Why did you go to his house? Why? Like all the whys that you have, you used to get an expert for that. If he has physical damages, like he's saying, mental damages, emotional, you're going to get an expert that is a psychiatrist or someone that can explain that, because that goes towards his damages. You're going to do depositions, which costs money. When you file motions with the court, it costs money. He may get an investigator that may cost money. If he actually has some type of video, audio, or whatever, that's going to cost money to get a forensic. He's going to need a forensic expert for all these text messages to authenticate them. Otherwise, the other side is going to move to strike them because there's no foundation. He's probably going to need somebody to extract from cell phones. He may need to pay, to subpoena the phone companies so that he can show on this day, you see, I talked to him from the phone record. So you can match it up that you may not believe everything I said that happened at this house, but at least you can see that I was actually there. He may try to get pinging from the cell phones and see where his location was of his phone. Those are the things that you could spend a whole lot of money when it comes to litigation, and usually take these cases on contingency, meaning I don't get paid until you get paid. So I may go 2-3 years where I spent 150,000 on your case, and that's on the low end. With his type of attorneys, this is probably going to be a good $500,000 just in cost, because his attorney is going to paperwork you, and you're going to have to fight everything that goes, So he may spend a lot on that as well. So there's that. Mocha Pam said, I hope that he can prove these allegations. The resident therapist, our therapist over here says, should he receive a settlement, he will not, I'm not sure, moat in his ability to earn. So that's another thing. If he's saying something about his ability to earn, he needs to prove that. Because it sounds like to me, he was working for a company to do parties. So you were a worker. You were not a working actor. We don't know if he had anything in the past with acting. Even he thought, according to his text, that he didn't think that Tyler Perry was going to like his pilot. So it almost sounds like he gave him a chance because they were friends. So Tyler Perry thought, or he had a crush on him, or whatever the relationship was. So Tyler Perry probably come against what his capabilities are as well. Maybe people came to him like, well, how he get this job? So he's going to have to actually show what it's worth. And maybe the $400,000 was what he could have made, but that's only if they have you on every episode. So you may not have was going to get the whole $400,000. So the actual damage part of it is going to be something that they go back and forth to prove. It may be Tyler Perry may have the information that Netflix was like, we not interested. And it wasn't just a ruse. He really did have the documents to show that I thought it was cool and I thought it was funny, but Netflix wasn't feeling it, or whoever he was shopping it to. So again, Tyler Perry's response, once he is served, will probably answer a whole lot of our questions, and we'll go over that too whenever it comes, because we try to be fair on both sides. The resident therapist, should he receive I already read that one. Let me see if I missed anything. Larry said $250 million. Tyler and your pen ain't even get wet, bro. It sounds like full. I knew I should have read that first. But yeah, I think, and what I will say this is, before I get off of here, y'all, and thank you so much for rocking with me for almost 3 hours to go over all of this. What I will say is that Tyler Perry, with these text messages, I think he was if these are authenticated, again, this is all alleged, this seems really sloppy. It seems very, very sloppy. And it seems a level of arrogance where you put yourself in situations you probably should not have put yourself in the situations, not to say one way or another, whether it was consensual or not. But you have to take responsibility. Just like I said, the same thing about Diddy. I said with Jane, she showed you, seemed like the elevator wasn't going all the way up. People told you that, and you still, because it was so good to you, you still decided to take the chance and mess with her because she was down for the get down. And so there's consequences to some of the choices if you don't have discipline and make good choices. And it sounds like the discipline, he's using Christian Keys. I said that in the beginning. I was like, remember the stuff happened with Christian Keys? We don't even know. Everybody's been alleging it. So Christian Keys will probably make that good witness list where he's going to have to say what the truth was and who he was talking about and who he was not talking about. But because of that, nothing in you said, let me be careful, because these people out here is mad. So part of this, yay or nay, true or like you put yourself in this situation, and so it's difficult to even feel sorry from his end. But on the other side, the fact that you're like, I decided I needed to keep text messages and receipts because I felt harassed and I felt it was going to come and get me one day. So it almost seems like you were setting it up for what is happening. It also looks like a setup on one side. I can see all the way around. And it also looks like in those texts, like I said before, it seems like you're very friendly in those texts and you okay. But all of the bad stuff, unless you got some audio recording, because I'd have been pressing record every time he called me. Unless you got some audio recording, it's going to be he said, because all of the good stuff, not good stuff like that, but you know what I'm saying, the good facts, it seems like they're over the phone. And it's you having direct quotes on what was being said on the phone. So we'll see, y'all. Yeah, people sue for always forever for constructive termination. They sue that all the time. Sue for that all the time, I should say. Would have expected Mr. Perry to be more mindful given his state. Yeah, and the other alleged issues. Like, we've heard rumors about this forever. So the fact that there's just rumors about it, you gotta move different. And then flexing and people do get money and they think you're supposed to do whatever for them and they should be getting what they want because they got money, and we don't know what his history is on. He tells us the story he wants us to know as far as how he got to where he is now. We don't really know. So but anyway, it's time for me to go because my hair is puffing up, it's getting thick. thick up under here. So you guys have a great night. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate that y'all hung in with me this long. See, I feel like y'all like me a little bit. But yeah, I may be back. I got a lot of hearings tomorrow, I think. So I may be back tomorrow, but I may not be. I don't know, but we'll see. But again, thank y'all again. Consider hitting the like and the subscribe before you leave. I'm going to holler at y'all later.